I'm staring at this mountain that I've seen in movies and I've seen in books in school. And I thought, I want to go there.
Yeah.
Like, I need to see this mountain in person. And I started thinking about it. And I always think about things for a few weeks and I mull it over in my head and I mull it over. And then I'm with my clients. It always happens in my gym. And I say it out loud. I'm going to go to Mount Everest. And as soon as I say it out loud, it's happening.
So for 10 years, Lupe was immersed in the world of bodybuilding and is an 8-time figure competitor. After her last figure competition in 2016, she decided to retire from the sport of bodybuilding to take up hiking and mountain climbing. She has been to Nepal, where she hiked 18,000 feet to base camp Mount Everest. She attended a climbing school in Ecuador, where she hiked another 18,000 on Mount Cayambe. I might be saying that wrong. Then to Russia, where she climbed Mount Elbrus, which was 18,500 feet. Then Mount Whitney, Mount Dana, Mount Lyell in Yosemite, and many more. One of which of these was done in the snow, and we'll talk about that. These are the things she does for fun. She doesn't get paid to do them. This isn't her job. It's what she loves, and it sounds absolutely dreadful if you ask me, but that's what makes it so interesting, and that's why she is here. Our episode today will be about a bunch of stuff. We'll recount my personal weight loss and fitness journey that she was an integral part of. We'll also chat about the topic of fitness competitions, the prep, and all the ins and outs relating to our participation in that arena. We're going to talk about her transition into mountain climbing. And of course, I'll ask her a bunch of questions about her mindset because I personally have never met anyone like her. So with that, welcome, Lupe, and thank you for being here. She's so uncomfortable right now.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, I think. No. Okay, so I'm going to walk her through this. And I have to start by telling you guys how much Lupe did not want to do this, okay? And the reason you agreed is because I staged her home for sale free of charge. And, with the only condition, of course, being that you would record an episode with me. So here we are. Lupe's not one to talk about herself publicly, at least not on a podcast of all things, but she's a good sport and I'm going to make it as painless as possible. Okay, so I want to talk about how we met, how I became a client. But before we do that, let's just real quick talk about how you got into personal training. You were a stay-at-home mom of 3, and then at some point you started working out at a gym before you branched on your own. But I also know you worked out of the home too, did training out of your garage. So tell me how that all started.
Yeah. So I stay-home mom, and once they were out of school, it was, what do I do with my life now?
Right.
And I was really kind of lost. I had a high school education, but I really didn't have anything. I'm not like an office type of person. But I did get my real estate license to start working with my husband, and about 30 days of that, and that was a no-go.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this is not for me.
I can't believe you got your license.
Oh, yeah, I did. I did the first time. I did the test, and I passed, and I'm like, ooh, Team Ryan, and ooh, Team No. He was just he's engineer by trade, so everything was by the book. And for me, I'm like, well, if I get to the same destination, why does it matter?
Yeah.
And then I found out if your T's weren't crossed and your I's weren't dotted, you could be sued or lose your commission. And I'm like, well, this isn't very fun. This is not, a good time. And then the market flipped. So houses were in foreclosure, and you can do a deal for months and you don't get paid.
Right.
So scratch that. That was off the list.
So true.
So I played soccer since I was 10, and I blew out my knee. And that changed my life.
And this was, when you blew out your knee, was it after you had kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I had 3 kids, and I'm like, what am I doing? I've got 3 kids I have to take care of, and I now have a blown knee because I was a pro soccer player. No, this was a rec sport.
Yeah.
So I gave up soccer, and I started rehabbing my knee, and I just fell into the weight room, and just rehabbing. My kids were in school. I really didn't have anything that I needed to do but take care of myself.
Had you worked out at a gym up until that point?
I did, but I never really did heavy weights because I didn't want to bulk up like a dude.
Right.
And I was just more legs because I needed strong legs for soccer. So that was the only thing I did. Wasn't really familiar with a lot of the stuff. I just went in for legs. And I just started weight training, strength training. I was there for 5 days a week. My kids were in school. And the trainers there they'd watch. I was very friendly to everybody and talking to people. And they said, you should be a trainer. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, we will pay you to tell people what to do. And I'm like, what? That's a thing? You'll actually pay me? And they said, go to the certification class and we'll hire you. And so I molded over for a while, and my husband, who's always been, I'm sure he didn't want me in his real estate world, really encouraged me to go that, just I would be better suited to do something more physical. So I took the class, took the test, passed it, and they hired me same day, California Fitness.
Yeah, California Family. Yeah, wow.
And so, but they are very basic. They kind of teach you how not to hurt somebody, really not how to be a trainer.
Right.
And it's just very, very bare minimum. And they're about making a lot of money. Obviously, it's a business. So I felt like a used car salesman, and it was not my thing. And I'm like, I'm trying to, I want to help people and show them, but when I feel like they're running from me, I feel like a sleazy car salesman.
So can't see you in that role.
Yeah, I know. So I was there for almost, I want to say 2 years, but not very happy, just kind of mulling through. I picked up a fit class, and I would work out with all these seniors that I loved, and just got them to dance to 50s and just making fitness fun. And my husband, they just had me working weekends, and my husband's like, you know what, look, I can take care of you. You don't need to do this job. You're not happy, but I love doing what I do, but they just didn't really show me how to do it. So I had a good friend of mine, Sarah, who at the time we played soccer, and she said she was doing a figure competition. So I went to see her, and I seen her on stage, and she was in this beautiful glittery bikini. Not that that was my thing, but to see her on stage and like her shoulders and her abs and her legs, and she was beautiful.
Like perfection.
Perfection. And I'm like, oh, I want to look like that. Because if you're going to be a trainer, I feel you should have aesthetically look like a trainer.
Right.
I mean, not necessarily be a bodybuilder, but, learn how to do it. So I reached out to her and I said, please show me how to do a figure competition. Train me. I will do whatever you say. So she was like, really? And I said, absolutely. So for the next, I want to say 3 months, maybe 4, I started my very first comp prep, which was so different. Trained 4 or 5 days a week, I believe, but 3 with her. And she showed me how to separate the body parts. She talked about her diet. She had me logging my food, which I cheated all the time. Not with my food, but writing it down. It was so tedious, but it was very old school. Broccoli, chicken, egg whites.
Oh my gosh.
Very strict. And I'm very compliant because I want to get the best result.
Yeah.
So I did exactly what I was told. And we got to the time it was competition. And now I look so much different because I did this and I look like this. So the payoff was there immediately. Yeah. I was like, I could see my shoulders, and I was seeing myself evolving. And I felt more my role of my job as a personal trainer. And so I was like, oh, wow, I like this. So the day before the competition, she says, let's get, I was talking to her, and she goes, okay, this is what you need to do for your tan and things. And I said, I really don't want to do it after all.
I remember this. I forgot that part.
And she goes, excuse me? I said, so I have the body I want.
I'm
going to pass on the show. And we were in a car, and it was in the parking lot, and she said, you were going to do this show. If I have to drag you across the stage, and you're going to do it because you've prepped for this, and you were going to finish.
Yeah.
I don't care if you never do another one, but you will start what you finish. And I was scared of her. And I just kind of looked at her, and she goes, I will see you tomorrow morning. And I'm like, okay. So got the $150 tan and got to the show. I was so scared. I was shaking in my heels. And these were plexiglass hooker heels. I'm a tennis shoe girl. Oh. And so you slap these heels on. She let me wear her $700 bikini. Oh my God. Which I've paid more since then.
I know.
So I put this thing on, and I didn't put any makeup on. I'm in this dark tan. I just like a mocha color, ridiculous looking. But when you're under the lights, everything pops. And she goes, okay, go. And she pushes me out on stage. And it was a very small show. And my mom and my sisters through my prep didn't know what I was doing, but they knew I wouldn't eat their food anymore. So they had no idea where I was going with this or doing, but I'm like, I just can't. I take my own food. I was very strange.
And you are from your mother is a
caterer.
She's a authentic Mexican food, yes.
Food is love. And
food is love.
If you do not eat her food, she is not happy.
She's offended. Yeah.
She's offended. So needless to say, she was not happy with me for a while. And then she sees me walk out on stage. Now, again, small show. I walk out on stage and I am shaking. And my mom, oh my God, how did she do this? And everybody's laughing because it's that small of a show. And my mom is just like tears. My sister's crying. Aww. My best friend Carrie was there. She's crying. And and I could see them because they're right in the front of the aisle. And I am just shaking in my shoes. And they get us up there, and I'm only competing with maybe 4 people, maybe.
Yeah.
And they're having us do our quarter turns. And I forget to put like something on my lips. So my lips are crunched together.
Oh, God.
And I am trying to smile. And the judge, who I later became good friends with, he was like, smile number 7. Ooh. And my lips were the ugliest contorted looking things you could ever imagine.
Gotta go look at the pictures now.
Oh, they're bad. They're bad.
I mean, I've seen it, but I haven't looked that close.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we quarter turn, and I do win. I win first place. And they have everybody off this field, and they give me my trophy, and I'm like, okay, thank you, and I walk off. No, we need pictures.
Yeah.
No, I'm okay. No, we need pictures, because they need to promote their show.
Yeah.
So they drag me back out on stage. I'm doing these, posing. There's pictures everywhere, and then they say, no, you have to stay there. And I'm like, why? Well, because we need to judge the overall. No, I'm good. I don't want to do anymore. Like, I did what I came to do. No, you have to stay. So they bring on the short class winner, the overall, the bodybuilding woman, and then me, which we looked a band of just 3. One was very muscular, one was tiny, and then there's me.
Yeah.
And they have us quarter turn.
Because you're figure.
I'm figure.
There's bodybuilding, there's bikini,
and
right?
And there's, yes.
So you're the middle, okay.
I'm in the middle. So we do our quarter turns, and then, the same thing. Would you please smile number 7? And I'm trying to smile so bad, and my face is just like up and down. It was, and I did my quarter turns, and they said, 20, 30 seconds, and they're like, number 7, first place, you win overall.
Wow.
And I was like, what? I was so excited. Grab both my trophies, beeline off the stage, and they're like, no, go back out there.
Pictures.
Because they need more pictures.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I really don't want any more pictures. And they're like, it's really not optional.
Yes.
And they're like, my coach is like, get out there. And so it was just very uncomfortable. The stage.
This gives everybody a glimpse of like what I have to deal with getting you here.
Yeah.
You just don't like it, really.
I don't. I love the behind the scenes. I'm like behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate the work it takes and the strength training. I love the discipline. The food is so much better now opposed to then. But it's just, I love the hardness of the day-to-day, like structure. I'm really good with structure. But to walk out there on stage, it takes everything because it's not my comfort zone.
You don't need all that attention and all the eyes on you.
I really don't. I love to have the look, although it is not a healthy,
I know. We'll
in
get
hindsight,
to that.
it's very not a good look being 8% body fat for a female. But it's cool that I could do it. It was like, it was my hard, because I wasn't going to play soccer anymore, and soccer was my passion.
So did you start training? I know I feel like when because I met you originally, met you before Mark and I even got married, or it was like, I think so. And at that point you were training out of your garage. So did that come after you started competing?
No, well, I was competing in my garage.
Oh, you were okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you had already started doing competitions, and meanwhile you're training out of your garage. So you left the gym to start doing that.
Yeah, I left. I did my first show, and I was still working at Family Fitness.
Okay,
that's right. I'm sorry. First show, I was still at Family Fitness, and then they started wanting me to work longer hours, and they wanted me to be there, whenever weekends. And I'm like, I've got children.
Yeah,
like this is not my life. Like I do this because I love it, not because I need money. And they didn't pay you. It was like $17 an hour after taxes. I was making 13 or something.
And you're giving up all this time.
And then they would have you clean machines. And Chris came in one day and he was like, you're not a cleaner. You're not a janitor.
You're a trainer,
you need to leave here. This is not what for, So he's always been really my back, like behind me, pushing me. And he was like, start a garage gym. And I'm like, who's going to come to my garage? I'm like, and he was like, if you build it, sounds corny, they will come.
Yeah.
And so I just took 2 people with me to my garage gym, and I just he got actually really sick. So it gave me an out to get away from Family Fitness. And I said, I have to stay home and take care of my husband. And because I'm not good with that kind of departure. So I used it as an excuse to walk away from Family Fitness and just start dealing, dealing with people more one-on-one whenever they wanted to see me. And it wasn't like $1,500 package.
Right.
I mean, my sessions were like $25 an hour. I mean, it was just like, I want it cost effective. Making things so ridiculously expensive, it shouldn't be. Health and fitness shouldn't be a major part of your...
Inaccessible, yeah. How old were you when you started training people?
37.
37, okay.
Yeah, 37.
So like 15 years ago?
Yeah, I think we're coming up on 15 years.
Crazy. Because I feel like Mark and I have been married for 17. And I feel like...
I met you at your engagement party.
That's right. And I made the best first impression, apparently.
You did. You were bougie. You were bougie.
So we're about 10 years apart-ish. No, we're not 10 years apart. How old are you? 50?
53.
I'm 44. So we're 9 years apart. So yeah, I was in my late 20s. That's my defense. Okay. Anyways. Okay. So, all right. So that gives everybody a good backstory. Yeah. We met in 2016. Well, we didn't meet. We started working. I had met her prior because our husbands are colleagues in real estate. Mark, my husband, referred me to you when I said I wanted to hire a trainer. Said that, you know, Chris, who's Lupe's husband, Chris's wife, Lupe is a trainer, and I'd gained about 30 pounds. And so I called you up, and if you guys, the listeners, have heard 2 weeks ago, I had an episode about my own story, how I gained that weight and how that all occurred. So you can go back and listen if you haven't heard it. I'm not going to spend any time talking about it. But I called you up. We talked on the phone, and I scheduled my first workout. As far as first impressions go, when I came to the gym in 2016, evidently I didn't make the best first impression back then either. This is something you told me later on. So for the listeners, when we first met, what did you anticipate I would be like?
Oh God, super high
because you were
maintenance.
so nice.
Yeah,
I have to say,
super high maintenance. I mean, just you walked in. Well, when I met you at your house, you were very sweet. You were not mean or me, but you were just very bougie. You know, just very Kim. Now that I know you, but I know the gym Kim.
Yeah.
I see some of your pictures and things, and the big hats, and you're beautiful. But when I see you when you walk into my gym, your hair's pulled back, and you're like, Lupe, I'm fat.
Yeah.
And I don't want a mom bod.
Yeah.
I'm so deathly afraid of being 40 with a mom bod.
Yeah.
Please, I will do whatever you say. Just tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. I will do whatever you say. I'm desperate. And I'm just looking at you, but you had given me a backstory of your autoimmune issues and your pain and things, because I didn't really know a lot about that. I just knew that you had, Mark's wife had some health issues. And I'm just like, I'm so out of my depth here. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm just a personal trainer. And I just thought, and I'd read about it, and I'd looked at exercises and things online and tried to do some homework, but I didn't really know what I was in for. And as far as personalities, like, were we going to match? Because I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I thought, let's just see where we go. Yeah. So you walk in, and I'm looking at you, and you just had this look of just, help me. But it was just like, I'll do whatever you say. Yeah. And those are the perfect ones because, they're very moldable. And at the time, I was doing meal plans. Mm-hmm. So I would they weren't exactly, call them healthy meal plans, but it was
simple.
Food,
they were simple.
And we just made it very reasonable, like easy foods. Not foods you would live on for the rest of your life, but to get to a goal. We just needed it simple because it just... Yeah.
I'll talk about mine in a second, but yeah.
So I was just like, if we could just do the food and we'll just treat you like a senior citizen,
That's
frankly.
exactly what you said to me. I'm going to treat you like my seniors.
Like my seniors, and we will just sprinkle love. And you're just looking at me and I'm like, we'll push, we'll pull. Let's just see what you can do. I'll check on you the next day and we'll just see how you progress, and we'll just slowly build as we go. And if something's like a no-go, we work around it.
Right.
We could work around anything.
Yeah.
And you were just so eager to do anything. You were just like, I just want to move my body. And we just kind of took to it. And you were so easy to talk to and eager. And you weren't, well, I can't do that, or I can't do that. Or you'd be like, let me try it. You never said no. You were like, I'll try it.
I do now sometimes.
Well, yeah, now you do. But
no, I'm just.
I give you more options
I do,
now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, let's just try it, and if I can modify it. And you were so easy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then we just start talking, and you were just so easy to talk to. And I'm like, oh man, that is definitely judging a book by its cover.
Yeah.
You were probably my easiest, and because you've met so many people.
I mean, I remember you saying, this is maybe a year after we met. Like, you told me, like, this is what I thought you were going to be like. And because I came in saying, I'll do anything. And you were thinking at the time, yeah, that's what they all say.
Oh, this is true.
Because really, that's what everybody says, right? Until it comes down to them actually doing it,
And they mean, I think everybody
of
has
course they do,
good intentions, and they really don't. They really mean it. You're right.
Yeah.
But when push comes to shove, the weekends come and things happen, and they go out or whatever, and then they, call, text me, oh my God, Lupe, I blew it, or I did this, and it's just like, okay, it's a new day.
Yeah.
Start over.
Yeah.
It's a new day. Don't beat yourself up over that. But at the end of the day, I look at people, how bad do you want something?
That's what it's all
you
about.
have to want it so
you do.
bad that nothing else matters. It's just how it is. Otherwise, you're going to keep doing this circle. So your mindset was like, Lupe, tell me what to eat. I will do exactly what you say to the T. And it was so against everything because a lot of it was frozen food.
Yeah, I want to tell them what I ate.
Oh my gosh, it was
so this is and it was against everything I had preached about, and I'm not promoting it so much as I am telling you that simplicity matters. So I had a gym. I had a couple different food plans, but I remember one of them, and I may be mixing them up, but this is an example. I'd had the Jimmy Dean breakfast bowl, the low calorie egg white breakfast bowl. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And then I added 4 egg whites to it. So that's easy enough. You throw that in the microwave and then you scramble up 4 egg whites, add it to it. I had that for breakfast. Another option I had was the little waffles, like I had gluten-free Vans waffles with like, it was a certain egg whites, like 4 egg whites. And then it was like, I was allowed like 2 of those waffles with Walden Farm syrup, which is like no calories, which I became addicted to. We all know that. And then there was like a certain type of bacon I could have. Like I had waffles, bacon, and eggs. And then the other one was a Jimmy Dean bowl. That was like a breakfast. I was like, are you kidding? I can eat this like on a diet? And you're like, yeah. And so, and all the macros already factored in, which is protein, carbs, fat. And then for lunch, there was like a frozen food meal. One was like a lasagna. One was like a fish. It sounds gross, but it wasn't. But it was like a fish meal. And then with like these frozen vegetables on the side. And then for a snack, I got a macaroni and cheese, microwavable macaroni and cheese, and then you had to add chicken to it. Yeah. And then dinner was like another microwavable something. And then I got to have a yogurt before bed, like one of those Oikos. Yeah. And I am like, and she's showing me, I'm like, there is no way I'm going to lose weight on that. Like, this is a lot of food. And she goes, it adds up to being 1,500 whatever calories. You're eating easy over 2,000 now, you will lose weight. And I was like, okay. And I was like, this is a cinch then. Like, I can definitely do this. And when I tell you, man, the weight just can't, and there was even an option, I think, one of the food plans had like peanut M&Ms included in it.
I think so.
It was crazy. I'm like, are you kidding me? Now, is this super healthy long-term? No, but let me tell you, it was the easiest weight I've ever lost in my life. Those first 20 pounds came off just... So, I mean, there were certain things I had to understand, like Coffee Mate has a lot of calories in it, turns out. And I drink coffee all day long. So, you learn these things. And alcohol, you kind of have to cut that back or cut it out. Yeah. So anyways, so that was her first impression. My first impression was, I had seen pictures of her. When I looked at her, I was like, holy shit. Because you had just competed in your last competition with Hala. You had veins, like all like busting out of your arms. I mean, you were just totally ripped. Your body fat was like 0. And she just looked mean, and she looked like she could kick my ass. And so I was a little worried, but her personality was not at all like that. I didn't think she'd understand what it would be like to struggle with weight gain. I didn't think that you would know how to empathize with that, but turns out later on we talked about that, which we're going to talk about. I didn't think you'd be able to relate with body image issues. Didn't expect us to talk about anything other than working out, which that's the thing that I think because we laugh and crack up during workouts and it feels like therapy and all of that. I think that when people hire trainers and all they're talking about is how they need to lose weight or what they're not doing right or whatever, I feel like you make it fun. Like, I think that's almost your entertainment too.
Yeah, it's really it's like a ploy to distract you. I really want to, because most people dread coming to the gym. Like, they dread working out. But if you make it entertaining, and if I laugh and tell you about my weekend and my husband, or we just talk about lighthearted things, it just makes time go by so much faster.
It does.
And I'm really interested to hear about their days and what they're doing. And some of I have a lot of seniors. I'm the only person they talk to all day.
You're their social life.
Yeah, and they come and they laugh and we talk, and I just get them to say things and do things that they would never do.
I know.
I think just they feel comfortable and they're not being judged. And again, so many people mess up with the food aspect. And I'm like, look, at the hindsight, it's just a day. Tomorrow's a new day. And just to make them not feel like they're a failure. Yeah. And it's just like nobody's perfect.
You're not that trainer that's going to, you don't beat people down. No. You'll correct them and be like, okay, well, what are we, how are we going to do this different next time? But you do not like to dwell on things. like dwell on
No.
when somebody screws up.
No, it's the past. You can't change it. And it's like, okay, learn from it and move on. And you
Yeah.
may mess up 10 times.
Right.
But, if you keep learning, it's consistency. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's a new day. It's a new day. Don't bash, as a lot of people take food away. Why? Well, because I overate yesterday. Okay, but today's a new day.
Yeah.
Let's just try better.
Right.
It's like one day at a time. And it sounds so simple, but it really is just one day at a time, being 1% better, you
Yeah.
know? And I think a lot of people come in and it's like, I don't judge you. Everybody has their thing. When people think, well, you don't understand. And I look at them like, well, I kind of do. But I'll usually wait a couple, sessions and we just talk more and I kind of get to know if they're an emotional eater or, what their jam is,
Yeah.
and just try to talk to them and explain that, they're not in it alone. It's like teamwork. Like, I'm here
Yeah.
for you. I
Yeah.
really want you to succeed, whether you just want to get stronger or you want to get to, a certain size or whatever you want. I want
Yeah.
the best for you. And if you're happy at 170 pounds and strong, then let's make you strong.
Yeah.
If you want to get to a certain size or fit in a bikini, then let's do that. But it's not my vision for you.
Right.
Or what, everybody else. It's what you want for you. Is my what I want to do. I'm the support role. I'm just in the background whispering in your ear.
I think you're also too as accountable as they want you to be, as we want you to be. So if somebody doesn't really want to have that accountability, then you're just like, okay, fine, just come work out. Like that's fine. And then if they need to leave for a period of time, you're like, okay, I'll always be here. Let me know. You're very flexible that way. But if I come to you and I say, I need to lose 10 pounds, tell me what to do. And hold me accountable, then boom, accountability's on. So it's like you kind of work with everybody, whatever they need from you. It's like you make that's the kind of trainer you are for them. So I feel like it's different for every person. Like some trainers they don't know how to work with anything other than one type of person. So
and
that's
there's
the benefit.
And with so many women, I mean, we're all so different. You have the competitor method. I mean, competitor personality that's just very right on point. We'll do very compliant. They're so good, but then could be so hard. And then you just have, people that really want it, but they just don't know how to get there.
Yeah.
They just need to be shown the road of looking at food differently.
Yeah.
And you have people that want it, during the week, but maybe not the weekend. It's not as attractive. And again, the accountability. I mean, text them, hey, how you doing, sunshine? What's going on? How's your food? I'm thinking about you. It's almost scale day, right? And just to let them know, hey, there's accountability. But again, if you want it, if you don't, then I'm not going to police you. This is your journey.
Yeah.
And I'm just one chapter. Like, I'm just a small piece of just whispering in your ear. Should I eat that?
Yeah, exactly.
Should I eat that?
Yeah,
because I'm going to have to explain to Lupe because she's going to ask, what'd you eat today?
Yeah.
Or what'd you eat this weekend?
Yeah.
And they just kind of look at me and they're like, I should remember this. And I'm like, because I'm going to ask you every time you walk in, how's your food?
Yeah.
What's going on? And not in a, just.
But they've given you that permission.
Yeah.
They've said that that's why they're seeing you.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, not everybody is there for that reason, but yeah, I feel like, I remember in the early years, I still get them, but the text messages, like I always knew that I was on her radar, like, that she was keeping tabs and keeping track. I'd asked you to, like, we were partnering together on this. So it feels good to know you're not at it alone. I mean, and I still 7 years later, I'm still a client. And it's not because, oh my gosh, I don't know how to work out. I mean, part of it is just I'm lazy. And I am lazy in the fact that I don't want to think about it. I want to show up, tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And I just tell you, like the other day, I said, I think I really want to work on my shoulders. I think I'm going a little flat on my shoulders. And to be very honest with the listeners, I have not been pushing myself in the gym. I'm just like, going through the motions. I'm so distracted with podcasting and everything else. I'm just not really paying attention, and it's time for me to tighten it up. And so I just tell her, like, okay, let's focus on this. I'm ready to do this. And then she follows suit. Like, so it's not like she'll go, what's happened to you? So it's just a different vibe. And I really appreciate it. Okay. I was just going to say too, that my mental health vastly improved when I started working out. It feels like therapy, but it's not like therapy. It's more just like, we're talking through stuff, sometimes light, sometimes heavier. Sometimes we're in a group with one or two other women and we're all talking. And then also too, physical exertion, while not always my friend with my condition, for my mind, it's like been very therapeutic for my mind. I feel like the anxiety that used to plague me went away. Most of it went away after I started working out. A lot of people ask me how I've handled my anxiety, and that's probably 90%. I have also referred a lot of people. My mom and my brother are both long-term clients. My brother has lost over 100 pounds. My mom is 70 and she still goes to her. I'm not sure how much my mom has lost. But I think that, Lupe simplifies everything. And the thing too, that before I move on to the next section about my fitness competition, I think that, I guess this is a good way to parlay into it. I remember coming to you about the fitness competition. Well, no, not even that. I remember coming to you about weight loss, and you said, do you have anything coming up? Like what's a goal? And I said, well, I have my 20-year high school reunion, I think it was. And you're like, when is it? And I told you the date, and you're like, perfect, done, we can do it. And then I just remember thinking, like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to, because I felt so limited in my capacity to work out the way I thought I would need to. And you're like, so much of it's food, like if you just followed this. And I didn't know if I could believe and depend on myself, but I believed that you believed. It's like I looked at you and I'm like, she seems sure. She wouldn't lie to me. I feel like she knows what she's talking. You were so like sure, like, oh, it's done. Consider it done. If you do this, it's going to happen. You're going to look so good. And you kept selling me on, did you pick out your dress yet? Do you know what you're going to wear? And then you would get excited with me. And it was like we're in this together. And I remember before I believed in myself, I just really bought into your belief because you've seen it happen with other people. And I haven't been there to see that. And so your experience, your confidence comes from your experience and watching it with yourself and other people. So that's another aspect. I always tell people, if you don't believe in that you can do something, anything, whether it be, school, working out, like whatever it is, find somebody who does believe and buy into their belief. Okay. So 6 months after working out with you, I started asking questions about whether or not, whether you thought I could compete in a fitness competition in the bikini division, which is the lowest division. And you were like, it's just so crazy because I'd only lost 20 pounds at that point, and I was still very out of shape. And she was just like, because you simplify everything, you were just like, sure, you could totally do it. Why not? Absolutely. And I know you do simplify anything, but I wonder if you actually had any doubts that I'd make it through, because it was a 20-week prep process. My prep ran mid-February to mid-July. So I had Mark's birthday, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Jasmine's birthday, my wedding anniversary, 4th of July, every holiday, every birthday, every get together. And we don't realize it, but all of these things center around food. This was also during Jasmine's comp cheer season. So I was traveling several times a month and I couldn't do cardio, which is a whole separate issue. But did you ever think to yourself, oh my God, this 5 months, this girl's never going to survive? Did you think I was going to make it to stage?
Oh, I knew you were going to
You
make it to
did?
stage. Oh, yeah, because you have the personality. I mean, as soon as you walked in and said, I'll do whatever you want to do, and whatever you want me to do, and then you took to it like a duck to water, like a pound a week. You'd walk in, another pound, and you would shine. Like every week you would hold your head a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Like, I did it. And our workouts were progressively getting better. You were getting through them without being so exhausted.
But competing though?
Oh, yeah, you can compete. And it's the mindset. It is really the mindset. And although maybe you didn't believe in yourself at the time, you couldn't tell. Like you look at me, you're like, you think I could do it? I'm like, absolutely. And you were like, huh.
I don't even know why I thought that. I mean, I did it, but I don't even know what possessed me. Yeah. I think I just needed something to work towards. And you believed I could. So I'm like, okay, I guess I can. But I remember several times during the prep process, like I don't know, did I break down at the gym? I mean, it was so hard. The prep, I mean, it's just so hard. And it's a lot of, people don't understand how intense these preps are. Up until your last competition, you had it way worse than I did. So I want to talk about that. But even the way I did it, it's like everything is weighed, everything is measured, everything is planned in advance. I got up every single morning, this is before my Fitness Pal. I like wised up and got on my Fitness Pal. But I had my spreadsheet that my husband created for me, and I would just put in, I'd have my calories I could have for the day, my proteins, fats, carbs. I knew my ratio, and I would look at all my labels that I had pictures of, and I would map out exactly what I was going to eat for the day. And I did that for 20 weeks straight. Never cheated once. And it is so hard because with all of the holidays and the birthdays and the traveling and the get-togethers, to be that disciplined and stuff, it's like, I don't know. I know I cracked a couple times. Did I ever crack in the gym? You probably don't remember.
No, I don't think you did. I think I don't think you did.
I remember
honestly.
I obviously was scared of my coach.
Yeah, we were both scared of your coach. I did not want to be your coach, if you remember, because you asked me, and I'm like, oh, I can't be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, I can be the coach, trainer, get you through your workouts, but I'm not a coach material. Again, I'm just more.
Yeah. You're like a very good support, accountability support.
I'm just not that hard-handed, like strict. But no, you held it together pretty well. You came in pretty tired sometimes, and we just got you through the workouts, pull-ups, and you were, again, I could see it in you. I like when you walk in, I could see it, and it's like stage time, and you wanted something. We were going towards that goal. You're goal driven, and again, in all other aspects of your life, besides your sickness, but with your other businesses, and just getting to talk to you over the time when you were losing the first 20 pounds, and when you just kind of said it out loud, like, "Do you think I could?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course you can." Again, it just takes that that drive. It just. How bad do you want something?
It's true.
You want to get on stage and give the best look. I knew you could do it.
I feel like I wanted to quit because it was so hard. I mean, you think about a diet. This is more than a diet. This is like, and by the way, like with my coach, our coach, because you coach with her too, or you were her client as well at one point. You didn't matter, holiday, weekend, every single day of the week, you had to text your weight to her every single morning. You get up, you pee, you text your weight every morning. And if there was a variation, you had better have an explanation for it. Yeah. I literally lived in fear of this woman. She is perfectly nice. She's not like she's a bad, but she was no nonsense. And I guess that's the kind of coach that, you need in these instances. But I wouldn't cheat because I was so afraid. But anyway, so it's very, very intense. I think the food part is way more intense than the workouts. For me personally, I mean, I didn't do the cardio because I got an excuse letter basically. No, I didn't. But the cardio with my condition, for some reason I do fine with weights. But with cardio, it would just take me out. It still does. I did yoga recently, and it took me out the rest of the day. Cardio, for some reason, takes me out. So I asked you, and you're like, I don't know, ask your coach. And so she said, well, let's just see how you do. If you stay tight with your food, you might not need it. And I went the whole comp, whole prep, which is unheard of without doing a stitch of cardio. I think I tried, but.
No, you tried once, but that really took, because so many of my clients would be, well, I can't do cardio, or I need to work out harder. And I'd say, my bikini girl has not done one day of cardio. Well, you did like maybe.
I tried it once.
And I said, and she lost a pound a week every week.
Every week.
So it really kind of takes the excuse out of you have to do cardio. So I'm going to have to call, bullshit on that one. Because I was, again, programmed to do cardio, and I was doing cardio, God, since I'd started, like 40 minutes of stair mill in the morning, 40 minutes of stair mill in the back end of the day, with weight training in between for an hour to an hour and a half.
And the
Dieting, and then I'm working. So, and with kids. So it was, you really took the whole, let's say wives' tale, like you don't have to do cardio to drop, to drop weight. But that's all I knew. And I'm watching you, and I'm like, well, no shit. Okay, she's proven the theory, because I wasn't competing when you were. But I was like, God darn, if you don't have to do, if you were so tight with your food and you did your
maybe
numbers,
I'm like, maybe, but it could just be like genetically, I just was not because I had never been heavy. So I was only overweight for 2 years. Like, wasn't very long. I think maybe when you're someone that has held weight on longer, maybe you need that extra. I don't know. But I will tell you that because I couldn't do cardio, it was very much emphasized to me by you and by my coach that you cannot afford to mess up on your food, which I didn't. So, but I will say that with your, so my type of food plans didn't really change during my prep. It was kind of the same thing that I had in that first initial 6 months. It was just maybe a touch less calories, maybe 100 calories less. It wasn't much less. Still though, I don't remember exactly what I ate. Oh, I think I started controlling my own diet. That's what it was. I didn't do the food plans, and that's when I started doing my own Excel spreadsheet. But this is I complain about my prep, but your preps up until your very last one where you had the same coach I had, your preps were the same food every day of your life without variation. What were you assigned to eat?
Oh gosh, I think my first coaches, it was, well, I guess all my coaches, it was, egg whites, 4 egg whites for breakfast. Then I'd get, oatmeal.
Oatmeal, yes.
Or cream of wheat. I'm sorry.
Cream of
I cannot stomach the oatmeal. Cream of wheat, 1 packet of cream of wheat, and some sugar-free jelly, 1 tablespoon. And then my next meal would be about 10 o'clock. I eat every 3 hours.
Right.
And it was 4 ounces of chicken breast, 6 ounces of broccoli, lunches tilapia, same thing, 4 ounces of tilapia, maybe half a cup of rice, protein shake after my workout, and a small banana, which we had to get straight because I would dig to the bottom of the bin to get the biggest banana. And he was just like, no, Lupe, you have to get it. So,
Is that Greg
yes,
you're talking about?
That's Greg. And then I'd have same thing for dinner. It would be chicken or fish with broccoli or sweet potato.
And it never changed.
Every day. I ate that every day. I would take my food to restaurants and plop it on a salad plate. Well, everybody ate ribs and bread and things. And and everybody eat their food and they look at me and I'd be like, don't look at my food.
Leave me alone.
Leave me alone. We're sitting
And
at
your
a table.
the gallon of water.
I'd have my gallon of water.
Same.
You'd walk around with this thing and people would just look at you so odd.
I know.
But when you take off your jacket or, if you're wearing your, whatever clothes.
I know. Too bad they can't see your arms right now. Dang it.
They just see how lean you are and they're like, oh, she's, obviously working out.
Yeah.
She's has a special diet and they would leave me alone.
Yeah.
And then Chris would order food. So, because I couldn't stop living my life with my family because I chose to do competitions and just trying to be, because you get hangry because, I love sweets. I love things and you just can't have them. And so it was really a balance of being not grumpy, being mean to my kids or my husband because I chose to do something.
Yeah.
So you hear competitors having tantrums or being mean. And I really thought I was probably grumpy in my first comp. And I really kind of stood back and thought, you know what? I can't take this out on anybody.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to do this. And I can't be mean to my kids or my husband. Because of this. It's just not okay. So I really had to check myself and really try to, I'm sure I still went off the deep end a few times with my husband. But it's really hard with food because it's such a big part of our lives.
It is. You don't realize it.
Everything we do. I mean, hey, let's go hang out and have a cup of coffee or whatever. Or everything's food and drink. I'm not a big wine drinker, but people go out to dinner parties and it's all food. Yeah. So I just walk around with a glass of water, but nobody says anything because, again, I'm in shape.
Yeah.
But other people get so much pressure when I talk to my clients, well, I have to have a drink.
I know.
Why?
I know.
Well, because
it's
people,
hard.
they get upset if I don't. Well, you know what? That's their issue.
Yeah, they judge you.
They judge you. And I'm like, well, and I don't understand it because people don't.
People don't mess with you.
People don't force food on me or things. I'm just like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And they leave me alone. But there is a lot of pressure for food and social engagements and birthdays. And my last prep with Holly, I started a week before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, Christmas. But she was so good because she gave me the meals.
She gave you the macro,
She just said, okay, 10 ounces of turkey, a half a cup of this. And she still gave me my meal, but just heavy on the protein. So I still got to enjoy food. But the old school, I wasn't.
And you got a candy bar that you were sure to open at the gym in front of everybody.
Yeah, it was the best ever. But my first 7 years, it was all old school.
Yeah.
And it was just, it gave me such amazing tools for weight training. I love the strength training. I love the discipline. I love the changing of my body was so cool. I was like,
very exciting.
Yeah, if I did this and then I leaned out and I look like this, I'm like, how cool is that? There has to be a payoff. There has to be a goal I'm going towards. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point? I'm like, what's the point of that?
Oh, yeah.
I just don't, it's not attractive to me and I just walk away. So it was so cool. But once I would walk off stage, you do the training and everyone's like, oh, you look amazing. And you're like, oh, thank you. You walk on stage, you place whatever you do, and then you walk off stage and it's all gone. And you're just like, well, what do I do now?
So it's like,
what do I do now? Because it was this build up to this big day and you're, everybody's like, you're posing and there's so much attention and you're doing all this stuff for a goal and now it's over. And you're like, and I go to my coach, okay, what do I do now? Well, just go back to eating your food and come back to me when you want to do another competition. Well, how much do I eat? What do I do? Well, eat whatever you want. What does that mean? And they would just go live your life, go do you. And
you didn't know how, probably.
Oh, gosh, no, because I'd been so strict. I'm very compliant. Like I said, very compliant. I do what I'm told. But when you let me run free reign, Oh my God, it was insane.
Yeah.
It was insane.
And it's like you really, your hunger hormones, which I think I talked about in my own episode, they are so out of whack. So you always feel hungry and you never feel full. It doesn't matter how much you eat. So you, like, as far as like off seasons go, the time in between the competitions, not just you, but competitors will oftentimes, they will go off the rails, which ultimately is what I think you've told me, kept you coming back over and over again. Did you always gain weight obviously you gained some weight because you can't stay that lean forever, but like what would happen with you?
Oh my goodness. I would walk off stage to a box of donuts and Mexican food. And I mean, I was making up for lost time, and I would never get full. And I would just go at food like I'd never eaten.
Yeah.
And I would still go to the gym, but I would just consume so much food and I would never get full.
Yeah.
And it was insane. And I would go from, I think my stage weight was probably 125 to 130 pounds. Within 3 months, I was at 170 pounds.
Wow.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily. It was no joke. And at least 10 was, fluids from all the overeating on the carbs. But I was just out of control. And people would see me in the gym, and then, we're really good at covering up because that's what we do as women. We learn to hide things and wear sweats and things. So my clients, until just maybe 3 months ago, one of my clients I used to work out with, he came back to me and he showed me a picture because we used to work out together in the gym. And I actually have one picture of me at 170 pounds because nobody ever seen it.
Is that the one you showed me?
Yes,
like
it
weeks
is.
ago? Yeah.
And I looked at this and I'm like, oh my God, I was so spiraling, out of control. So you just feel so heavy. And people would say, oh, look at all that muscle, you're getting swole. And I'm like, but I knew I was it was fat. And it was so unhealthy for me. But I didn't understand food, and I didn't understand how much to eat or what to eat. And it was so confusing to me. A carb and a fat and calories, and how many calories are in a gram of fat. It was way over my mindset. Like my one coach tried to explain to me the 35-35-30 ratio, and I pretended like I knew, but I had no idea what she was talking about.
Yeah, because back then that was before you really knew macros and knew which is protein, carbs, fats, and having a ratio and knowing how. Yeah. So you were just accustomed to these food plans
Just
that were
tell me what to
boring
eat.
and bland, and
They
you
would
didn't
just
know how
write it
to
on a
eat.
piece of paper.
Yeah.
This is what you eat and nothing else. This is what you eat.
It's intuitive eating becomes like strange because it's like you don't know how to eat normally because it's almost like you can't trust yourself. And the whole idea of reverse dieting wasn't really a thing back then.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You really warned me.
Yeah,
heavily.
It was it's really confusing.
Yeah.
And just not understanding. Like I said, you don't know. And so many people, and they're like, there's a balance. And you see these women, and it wasn't really big Instagram there, but Facebook and things, and they were just, super lean all the time, and that you should be able to maintain this effortlessly and eat 2,200 calories. And I'm just like, what am I doing wrong? I don't understand. But I just wasn't, my trainers at the time just didn't do it that way. They just call it, it's old school. It's just called old school.
Old school, yeah.
Old school, and they just say, and I'm like, but there's another way, because I'd see other people, look, they're eating like a cookie. Why can't I have a cookie? No, Lupe, no cookie.
It's like religion. It's almost like
one or the other.
Yeah, it's like the two sides are against. It's like politics. Like the two sides are against each other.
Oh, very much so. And it's like team macro, and then there's old school, and they're like, old school's like, it's not broken. It's like
the bro diet, right?
And it's like, don't fix the wheel. Don't try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
But the wheel's broken.
Yeah.
Oh, well, for me anyway.
Yeah.
It wasn't working for me. It may work for many women, but for me, I couldn't see myself eating tilapia and broccoli for the rest of my life.
Oh my gosh.
And that was it, like very strict. And if I didn't, I would blow up like a puffer fish. Yeah. So it was just personally for me, and my clients couldn't do it either. They would do it maybe 2 weeks, and they're like, Lupe, because that's all I knew. And they would flail and they would fail. And then I would feel like I'm failing them. And it was very hard. And it's something I'm glad I learned how to do it. It gave me what I have. And I hired I've had 3 trainers, and they all gave me amazing gifts of just how to train differently, how to, work my bodies in different ways. And I love them for everything they've given me. But the food was the key for me to really, that I fell into Holly. Holly, seeing me working out, and she's seen me out of control. She's seen me at my biggest, and she's seen how unhappy and depressed, I was depressed. And this was my world now, because again, I wasn't playing soccer anymore. And I was like, well, if I have to do another competition because I have to look like a trainer, because I clearly don't look like a trainer, I'm a mess. And my kids were watching me go up and down, my daughters, mostly my daughters, because I had 2 teenage daughters, and they're watching mommy get really lean and then, blow up like a puffer fish.
Dieting all the time.
Yeah, so that was, I'm sure, in my mindset then that wasn't a good thing. And I walked away from competing, actually. I just said, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. And I did poorly at nationals. I did poorly, and I think that was like, what am I doing? Like, I spent like $6,000 to go to nationals, and I didn't place, which was fine. But, they were like, we want bigger back, bigger shoulders. They wanted bigger. And I'm just like, I think I'm good. Like, I'm done with this. Yeah. This is not for me anymore. I'm done. And then I blew up like a puffer fish. And then Holly, she seen me in the gym, and she was like, Lupe, there's another way. And I'm like, Holly, your way doesn't work for me. I'm different. I'm special, I'm special.
Which you hear all the time from your clients.
I'm special. I'm not like everybody else. And it took about 3 months of me being sad. And my husband would see, and he was like, you should reach out to Holly. You should reach out to Holly. And so I finally said, okay, I will drink your Kool-Aid. What do I do? And she knew I was very compliant. And she goes, I'm going to make you meal plans. What do you like to eat? And I'm like, huh? And she goes, tell me the foods you like. And she gave me my first meal plan. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I can eat this food and lose weight. And she was like, yes, I promise. Do what I say. And I was like, okay, I will drink this Kool-Aid. And over the course, I had a 7-month prep because I started at 100.
So you decided one last competition.
Yes. I said, okay, I will do one more. I will do one more competition with you. Show me your way. And I went from 170 to maybe I was the high 160s to 117 pounds when I walked on stage. But it was the easiest weight I'd ever lost in my life.
Yeah.
And the strength training, that just came. I love the hardness of that. But it was the food. And my journey, my daughter was struggling with her weight. And she was like 220-ish. And having food delivered, which I didn't know they did that at the time, brownie brittle and things. And I'm like, oh, what are you doing? This is not a good way. So we showed her, I gave her a meal plan. She started doing these meal plans with me. And she started losing weight and feeling more confident in things and started her weight loss journey. And like I said, I got to 117 and effortlessly. It was really, besides the one fluff up that I did.
Yeah, which I actually do want to talk about it. Want to see, hold on. Oh, yeah, that's coming up on my notes here. So I would just say that the irony of all the, because I want to point this out if it's not already obvious. The irony is that you look extremely fit and healthy and all of those things, but it's actually incredibly unhealthy. So it's like, it is ironic because... it's also too, it's you always tell me it's a very selfish sport because it's all about you. Mm-hmm. And then it's not like, it's the hormones, right? Is that really where the unhealthy comes in metabolism?
A lot. Bone density. Really start to lose a lot. Your hormones change. You don't have a period any longer. No. You are actually... you're not malnutrition, but you're just so low in body fat that it's just not healthy for a prolonged period of time. Yeah. You're not as strong as you were.
Even though you look like you are.
You look amazing. You look like on the magazines, but you're the weakest. And I would have to take caffeine. In the beginning, all caffeine was taken away from me. And I'm like, well, pre-workouts and things. I'm like, no, Holly took everything away. She was like, no. And I'm like, well, why not? And she goes, because when you are down to 120 pounds, we need to then introduce caffeine into you.
You're going to need it.
You're going to need it. And I didn't understand that because I'd never done it this way.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So she waited till I got to a certain body weight. And then she goes, okay, now we need to add, just a little bit of caffeine, and it was just a little bit. Right. So she was very, very cautious of just a little bit. And that's all I really needed. Yeah. Because I still needed to get through my workouts, which were still very hard. And it didn't matter. And I trained by myself. But it was, she'd say, you have to do this, this, and this. And they were just grueling. And it was just what you did. Mm-hmm. But the food, again, it was hard, but not because the training was always the training. The food was the key that was my last component. Yeah. So it made it easiest prep I've ever done. Yeah. Easiest by far.
Yeah, it helps when you don't feel deprived. Yes. Because the whole thing is like, and I've talked about this in my episode, it's the, what do they say? It's if it fits your macros is like the, what they call that if it fits your macro. So basically you get your ratio of like protein, like I think I had 160 protein, 134 carbs, and like very low fat, like 28 grams of fat. It was very, very low. That was my ratio. So as long as those are grams. Sorry, I'm like, so as long as my day fit into this, as long as I met all of those, like that's what I had to do. So, I mean, as long as you can fit a candy bar in that somewhere and you don't go over, you're allowed to eat it.
Yeah,
like
golden.
that's the whole thing. You don't as much feel deprived, but that doesn't mean you're not so low in body fat by the end that you're not going to have these cravings, because cravings, it puts pregnancy cravings to shame. I mean, really, I feel like they don't hold a candle to the cravings you have when you're in prep. So I'm going to ask Lupe if she wants to tell the story. She hasn't told very many people this story. I can cut it out if you don't want it.
I'll share the story.
Are you sure?
I'll share the story.
I think I'm like the first person you told years ago, because I was knee deep in prep. You're like, I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. And you told me the story, and I make you tell it to your clients all the time. Okay, good.
And once again, when I got the response from you, like, you weren't judging me.
No, I was like, I was comforted.
I know, but coming from being a competitor and like everybody again looking at you like, oh my God, you're the epitome of health. How can I tell my dirty secret? Like everyone thinks you're perfect and you're not perfect.
Right.
But it was still, I don't know. I don't even know if I've ever told my husband. My coach definitely didn't know. So Kim came in.
No one will hear this.
Yeah, she was. So she was probably just having a bad day.
Oh, I was.
And I remember I said, okay, I'm gonna tell you something. I just wanted to make her laugh. I just wanted to take her mind off of her. And I'm all about diversion, because she's still working out while we're talking. Because that's like the thing. We'll talk,
I keep
but
going.
you got to keep moving. And I said, okay. So so my girlfriend Carrie comes out every month. So my husband and I usually take her back to the airport Sunday night. Weekend's done, and my husband was sick, and I said, I'm going to take Carrie. Don't worry about it. Stay and rest. So I get Carrie in the car. As we're driving down, we're talking, whatever. But in my mind, and let me preface this, is that the word? Yeah. I was probably 6 weeks to 2 months early on my prep.
You'd already met all of your fitness goals.
I was lean. I was probably 120. I think she wanted to get me to 117 at the time. So I was crazy lean. I mean, I was shredded. So I was already there. And so I'm driving and I'm like, I want Chinese food. It just popped into my head.
You saw the Panda Express.
And Panda Express was right there. And I'm like, oh, when I drop off Carrie, I'm going to stop and get Panda Express. So this is premeditated. I'm thinking about it. So I couldn't get Carrie out of the car fast enough. She's gone. I turn around. I'm driving back down the freeway and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to have me some chow mein. I was so excited because I haven't had anything for at that time, it was probably 5 months.
5 months, yeah.
And so I pull off to the turnoff. I cannot find this darn Panda Express anywhere. Like, there's nowhere. And I'm like, the gods have spoke. They don't want me to have Panda Express. But then there are the Golden Arches. And I'm like, Golden Arches. My most favorite thing is a hamburger and a vanilla cone. So I pull in and I eat, I grab the vanilla cone and the hamburger. It has never tasted so good. It was like I've never had one before. And I just gobble it up and I'm like, oh my God, that's the best. Hop on the freeway. I start driving down and I'm like, there is a Wiener Schnitzel right down Bradshaw. I deserve chili dog because I've been so good. This is what I deserve. Yeah. Pull off onto Bradshaw, go into Wiener Schnitzel. Well, I buy the 2 chili dog meal, and they give me a large Diet Coke. And so I'm just pulling. I eat this within 5 minutes. I have devoured all of this food and drank the Coke. And I look next door, and I'm like, there's a Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, my gosh.
I deserve some. I think I wanted hot wings.
Oh, my God.
I deserve them because I've been so good at prep. I don't know who this person is, but there is somebody leading my body. Pull into the next one, get out. I would like chicken, hot wings.
Okay.
Hot wings. And they said, well, you're going to have to wait 5 minutes, but we have chicken tenders here ready. And I'm like, I will take your chicken tenders. And because you had to wait a few minutes, we're going to give you 3 free cookies. What? Free cookies? I will take them off of your hands. And they give me another large Diet Coke. Go in the car. I devour this. With the wedge cut fries because I needed those. I devour this down, get on the freeway.
I mean, people don't understand. There is no off switch.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And hop on the freeway, driving back, get off on Sunrise, and there's the Golden Arches again. Well, salty sweet. I need another ice cream cone, to just finish this off.
So crazy.
Eat the ice cream cone. Then I pull into my driveway and I look to the right and there is a carnage of wrappings and soda cups. And I'm like, what did I do? Oh my God.
It's like you black out.
It was an out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, but I still am not full. Like my tummy's not
so
feeling it.
Weird.
And I'm like, man, and I'm looking at this carnage and I put it all in a bag. I go around the side of my house. I put it in the bottom of my garbage can, stuff it down there, hiding it from my husband.
Hiding the evidence, the paraphernalia.
Hiding the evidence, because it never happened if you don't see it.
Nope.
I walk in the house. My husband's on the couch, and I sit down and I'm quiet. And he goes, I'm so proud of you. You have done such a good job. I'm going to make some popcorn. Would you like a little bit? And I look at him straight-faced, and my stomach is hard, and it's distended at this point. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pass on that because, I shouldn't.
I shouldn't.
It does not in my meal plan.
Not my meal plan.
I don't even know how he said it with a straight face at the time.
Oh, my gosh.
So he's like, okay, I totally understand. So I go to bed maybe an hour later, maybe 10 o'clock at night. I was up probably till 4 a.m. and my heart was racing.
Yep.
It felt like it was going to come out of my chest, dumping all of this food. I don't even know the add up on these macros because I was probably taking in 130 carbs a day. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
I mean, I laid there and just hot sweats. My heart was racing. I felt miserable. I still got up at 5 to go to work. And I'm getting up, getting ready, and I get a text, wait. From
the coach, yeah.
And I just looked at this text, and I just stared at it. And about 5 minutes, I started probably getting ready for work. Wait, question mark. And I'm like, oh, fuck, what do I do? And I looked, and then I always journaled what my weight was the day before. Now, it was not abnormal for me to be the same weight for 2 or 3, 4 days.
Yes.
So I made the choice to lie, and I put in my previous day's weight because I was so afraid of her.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she was she was just no nonsense.
No
I will
nonsense.
fire you. Like, this is business. You will do what you're told. So for the next 3, and I wouldn't get on the scale. I just refused to get on the scale, but I was still ripped. Like, I woke up and I looked just as lean as I did.
When you're that lean, it almost makes you look better because your muscles are full with all that glycogen.
I look good.
Yeah.
I look good. Yeah. But I knew that scale was not going to reflect it.
Right. No.
So I didn't get on the scale for probably 3 days, and I just kept doing the same weight. And on Thursday or Friday, I got on the scale, and my weight was back down to on point.
Oh, wow.
But it was, it was very, oh, God. It was scary, like what I was possible of.
Yeah.
But I was never full. Like, I was like, this can't be my life. I really started thinking about, how am I going to diet out of this? And, and Holly reassured me at the time, because I didn't tell her, obviously, about this incident. But, I would gradually say, so when I start to reverse diet, and she was like, we're going to add food in slowly. I still didn't really understand the process, but she just reassured me that, there is another way, Lupe. I promise you'll be able to eat more food.
Yeah.
This is not your life.
Yeah.
But it was to see what I could do in a matter of 35 minutes of carnage of eating and still never full.
It's important to point out that you don't have a history of like food issues or eating disorders or anything like that. So it's like you very easily can fall into that, like if you're not careful, and because you do get so out of control. And with me, I feel like you were always talking about, okay, we'll reverse diet you. Like, I knew exactly what was going to happen the minute I was done competing. You had a plan. Like, we knew what I was going to do. And so I was able to do it successfully, but it's almost harder then.
Oh, yeah.
Because at that point, you don't have anything to shoot for. You're just it's pure discipline, pure discipline. There's no motivation, no light at the end of the tunnel that you're trying to get to stage. It's just like, my motivation was, oh my gosh, I don't want to undo all my hard work. And I would always be afraid, like, if I'd make one wrong move, I'd blow up again. And you're like, it doesn't work that way.
No, because I think I just I didn't scare you, but I'm like, we just have to it's so important.
Yeah.
So important.
You've gone through it.
For 7 years, I would go up and down at such extreme weights bad for my skin, just bad for your health overall.
Yeah.
That fluctuation, and it's just not. It's just.
And
not
I know
good for
we're
you.
laughing about it. For us, I feel like bringing levity to these situations makes it. I mean, I know there are people out there that are really suffering through eating disorders and binge eating disorders, and that is a real thing. And but I feel like what we're really talking about is the competitor lifestyle, which is it can go that direction if you're not careful. So it's more like a warning, but obviously she's not struggling from it anymore. This was a long time ago, but that's the possible route that you could go down if you're not careful. Anyways, it's funny to talk about now. It probably wasn't as funny then. All right, so you decided to retire from competing and you got into climbing. I met you right after your last competition, and I don't remember how long it was between 2016 and when you started to get into climbing. When was it? Was it like 2 years later after competing?
I want to say it was probably close to 2 years.
Yeah. So where did that come from?
Gosh,
You were doing Talak a lot, I remember.
Yeah, I'd go for hikes with my family and my husband, but I didn't really have any goals. Like I said, I was done competing. I knew, like, I walked off stage with Holly. I placed second on that vote, but I just knew that when I was with Holly, like, I knew I was done. There was finality there. She, to kind of go back to the competing, because it rolled into the food, is like she was so upset that I didn't place well, right? And she was, and I said, I don't care about what these 4 judges say. You've given me a gift of food and how to help my family and how to help my clients and just people to show that you can have whatever you want. It's just how much. That was such a big gift for me because it was something I didn't know was possible. So it was such a good, it was just a huge gift. This was the food and just knowing how to do that. So when I walked away from competing, it was like, okay, I've got that. Like, that was in my back pocket. Like, okay, I'm good. But what do I want to do now? Because I didn't really have any goals besides, competing. I wasn't going to play soccer anymore. I think I tried soccer one more time. One game, and I walked away. And I said, you know what? This is not for me any longer. And I was kind of lost. And my clients wouldn't know, but I'm just more quiet. My husband sees most of it.
I remember you were, I felt like you were always kind of looking for something.
It was, there was just something. And I didn't know, obviously, I didn't know what. I've never been a big traveler.
Right.
I've been a stay-home mom and things. So I train a gal. Her name is Brenda, and I love her.
Shout out to Brenda.
Yes, as I think at the time she was 70, and she said, I was talking to her. I had her one-on-one, and we're talking about goals and things. And I said, I really don't have anything, and I feel kind of lost, and nobody can, nobody can help fill that. I have to fill it. And she goes, they have trips on REI, Lupe. And I'm like, what? And she goes, you should go to REI. They have adventures. You should go on this website and check it out. And I'm just like, I'll think about it. And she goes, you should really try. And I said, I'll think about it. So again, as I mull things over, it took about a month. And I'm sitting on my couch and I open up my laptop and I type in REI Adventures. And the first picture that came up was Everest Base Camp.
Yep.
And I'm staring at this mountain that I've seen in movies and I've seen in books in school. And I thought, I want to go there.
Yeah.
Like, I need to see this mountain in person. And I started thinking about it. And I always think about things for a few weeks and I mull it over in my head and I mull it over. And then I'm with my clients. It always happens in my gym. And I say it out loud. I'm going to go to Mount Everest. And as soon as I say it out loud, it's happening. Like, there's nothing, if it comes out of my mouth, I will do it.
And we all thought you were crazy.
Everybody was like, why would you want to do that? And I'm like, I just want to do it because I think I can.
Yeah.
And so I started training for it with Brenda.
Yeah.
And
Brenda, we should preface, she's 70, but she's a marathon runner.
Oh, gosh.
Hiker, all that, yeah.
Yes, she runs, 18 miles a week. I mean, she does marathons. She's first place all the time.
She's crazy inspiring.
Amazing. I want to be Brenda when I grow up.
I know, you will.
And someday, yes. And so
about 20 years.
I think so. So she was hiking with me every weekend. And this little lady, she would hike me into the ground. I would follow her, and it was practically like a quick walk. But I'm just going, and we call it walking the dog, because I would get home after 12 miles, and I would be worked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, my God, this lady. But I was like, I would follow her the next weekend and the next weekend. And we're getting close to the date, and I called to make a payment. And my husband was in the car. And I said, yeah, I'd like to make a payment. And my husband looked at me, and he goes, excuse me? You're actually going? And I said, I told you I was going. And he just looked at me and he was like, I didn't think you were serious. And
Yeah.
I'm like, when do I say something out loud and not be serious?
Right,
if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And he was just not happy at that point. And I'm like, would you like to go? And he looks at me and he was like, I do not want to shit in a hole and wash in a bowl, were his exact words. And I just said, well, think about it. The invitation's there. I'm going. This is the date. I've been training for it and I'm going to do it. And I don't think he really believed. He paid for my insurance to be helicoptered out if I got sick.
Right.
Or
I remember
hurt.
that.
He paid for my insurance. But I don't think he really thought I was going to go until he took me to the airport. And I was like, I need to go do this. My kids don't need me anymore in the same way they needed me. And I needed to find myself.
And but at this point, you hadn't really done a lot. I mean, you had done Tallac and in Tahoe, but you hadn't really done Yosemite or
No.
anything. Like this was your first Everest.
Yeah.
Everest was your first. So
this
that
was
you
my
just
first. It's like,
go
I
big or
want to
go
go
home.
check out Mount Everest. Now, I wasn't getting to climb Mount Everest, but I was getting to the base camp.
the base camp, which
And
a lot of people don't even get that far.
And then we did the Kalapatar, which was the mountain adjacent, which was about 18.5, just to get a better picture. But it was 14 days of just, and then it got extended because the airport fogged out. But I just, every day you're getting up and you're hiking every single day.
What was the train? I remember because this was like 5 years ago or something. What was the train? You had to wear a mask. How did you train for Everest?
Training. So they don't really, I mean, they tell you physically fit, strength training, cardiovascular is great. And so I went out and I bought a mask, a elevation mask. So I started wearing this in the gym with my full-on hiking boots.
Like and your backpack?
And my backpack.
Yeah.
And I'm there at 4 a.m, because I have to go to work at a certain time.
Looking like a crazy person.
Oh my gosh. And I have this mask on and it gives you very limited air because, it's supposed to emulate,
Right.
elevation.
Yeah, what it would be like, yeah.
And so I'm walking and I can't even tell you how ridiculous I must have looked. But, I'm training for something like you're all in.
Yeah,
You've got to do it.
Yeah.
And so I probably did that a half a dozen times. And then I finally got a call from one of the trainers from this, from REI. And they said, you know what? You really don't need to do that. You're okay. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to be prepared? And they're like, well, we're going to acclimatize you as you go up. So it's something you can try to acclimatize here, but once you take the mask off, you're at sea level.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. He
Yeah,
goes,
okay.
but once you're here, every day we're going up higher and higher.
Okay.
So your body will acclimate naturally. And then they give us another, like there's pills that you can take that make you produce more red blood cells. So there's a way to get you there
good.
without getting sick. So I was like, so I don't need to wear this mask.
But I mean, the boots and the backpack probably.
The boots and backpack were fine. They just wanted hiking strong, which hiking with Brenda every weekend. I mean, when I got to Nepal, it was a cakewalk. Like I could walk every day, all day.
So crazy.
And it was just easy because I was strong from weight training. And then Brenda would walk me into the ground every weekend.
Yeah.
So it was just so easy. I mean, going up the mountains were hard and challenging, but doable. I mean, I didn't have to I would deal with breath, which is
Right.
conditioning and
Right.
it's elevation. So if I just had to deal with breath, that was easy and compared to being weak or not strength training and the training I did up to it.
I remember we were all so worried, and it just seemed so crazy to be like your first climb would be Everest Base Camp. And I just remember you constantly saying, you still do this. You said, I'm just going for a walk. How hard could it be? It's always like, I'm just going, or like you'll take a picture and send it to me and just be like, out on my walk with like on top of a mountain. I'm like,
It's just a
okay.
walk.
Was that what we call it?
It's a walk.
Yeah.
We're built to walk. And for
Yeah.
me, it's just, I just like challenge.
But it goes back to you really simplifying it in your brain. If you make it out to be this gigantic, unachievable thing, then you'll maybe feel defeated before you ever start. But if you go into it thinking it's a walk, then
it's just a walk, 1 foot at a time.
Yeah.
And if I need to go a little bit slower, I will. And if I can go a little bit faster, I will. I have my food, my water. I usually have my cool little dog with me. When I'm local, I have my dog. I take, drag some clients up there with me and some of my fun hiking buddies that do what I do. And it's a walk, and it's just, you can do anything, for 7 hours.
I remember you used to say that to me. You would be like,
anything.
you could do anything for, we would, what like I guess wall sits. I would just think these timed things. Oh, the ropes, the wall sits, things where I was timed. You could do anything for 15 more seconds or whatever it was.
Yes.
So, as far as, let's go back to that bathroom situation. With these climbs, I mean, I'm even talking about the Yosemite climbs, like any of these climbs, what is it? There's, I know on Everest, there's not little porta potties, I get it. But do any of these climbs have that?
No. These countries do not have any type of facilities. You basically, Nepal, and you would have to go and you would climb up the side of a mountain, find, a big boulder or a hole, and you would go. And the facilities they would have would be maybe a stall, but there's just a hole in the ground. And I can't even tell you how many people have missed that hole. So now you're doing a squat with a backpack on, not touching anything, and trying to squat and go to the bathroom. And there's really just no option. You have to go. I mean, and it was comical. You just look and you're like, oh God, I'll go up behind a rock. At least it's, it's out in the, outside, because the boxes were just insane.
Ooh.
Even their airports were the same.
Really?
The airports had a stall. You could shut the door, but there's a hole in the ground.
Oh my goodness.
So the facilities, and coming back, I stopped in Singapore, and it is, I guess, the nicest airport in the world. Oh my God, there were fans in the stalls, and I was like, and I text Chris, I want to stay here. So nice.
Gosh.
Because of where it come from. It was so nice and air conditioned, and it's definitely not.
Did it affect you? Like, were you ever like, oh God, I cannot believe I'm doing, or were you just take it with a grain of salt?
It was just a certain amount of time. I'm going to be here for 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's just what you do. And I'm going to go back home to my luxuries. And it was just the price to pay to be able to see what I wanted to see.
And going into it, what to expect, obviously.
Well, I didn't know about the bathroom situation until we got there. No, they don't tell you. But they try to, they put up a little, they don't tell you these things.
They should.
I would have went anyway.
I know
I'm
you
like,
would,
big deal. For me, it's not.
I know it's not a non-negotiable.
It's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a deal breaker with me. I'm just like, I'll try it. We'll try it. And again, it's not forever. This is not my life. Mm-hmm. This is an experience. I get to get, on an airplane, and I get to see all these cool mountains that I've just seen in movies. And I think that was the coolest thing. Like, I was just, we're middle class, big family. I never thought like I would be going to Nepal and standing there at 6 a.m. looking at Mount Everest, like a stone throw away, like it's so there. And I was like, this is like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Was to be able to get to see this mountain. It was just the best experience.
It's so crazy going from being like a stage competitor to like you really went the other direction. But this is challenging in a different way. Like I want to ask you about which climb was the most challenging, and also what is an example day like for, like if you're doing a 14 to an 18K climb, maybe just pick out one or two and tell us those stories. I've heard all of them, obviously, but I know the listeners will be curious. What was the hardest one?
Oh, here or the hardest one?
Just
when I went?
In general, like which one sticks out in your? I mean, obviously we talked a little bit at our workout today about the one in Ecuador.
Ecuador.
That one was a big one.
Yeah, I think that was my really eye-opening of what I was in for. If I wanted to, like, this is really like worst case scenario for me. For me, it was the ones here were challenging. Whitney was challenging. I did that, like I said, once in the store, but I didn't know. When I went on my trips when I came back. It was, I believe, before Ecuador, but I didn't understand what Mount Whitney was or where it was. I'm sorry. So I got invited to go in the snow. Well, I just did Mount Everest, and I'm like, cool, yeah, I'll go. How hard could it be? Yeah. How hard could it be? I just walked all these days, and I'm hiking strong, and I went with a group, and we went to bed at like 7 o'clock, and we woke up at like midnight, got our gear on, and I was partnered up with a very nice gentleman he's the one who invited me, and we started hiking. And very quickly, I understood the personality that I was with. And he would overcome cancer. I mean, but he'd been a year out, and he was, he'd tell me how he's hiking. And, I'm like, I'm with a strong climber. I feel good. And so we started hiking, and he was very frustrated about his crampons. And he was talking about how tired he was and things. And he was setting me up to stop. And I had taken off 3 days of work. And so we were starting.
I forgot this story.
Yes. So we started hiking up, and we're with a group of 7 of us. I believe there were 7 of us. And we start hiking up the first, like, it wasn't even a hill. It was like an embankment. And he was very flustered. And I'm like, whoa, slow your roll. Let me help you put your crampons on. And I got him all situated. We start walking up. He's behind me, and we're going. And we get to the top and there's a bear tracks up there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're not on the top of the food chain anymore. I'm like, oh wow, like this is like legit. We're out in the wilderness. And so we start hiking. We don't see the bear. And the group, they all pull ahead of us because my guy's so slow. And they are so far ahead of us, we can't even see them. And it's pitch black. It's like 1 a.m. at this time. Pitch black. And we have a radio, but they're not answering the radio. And I'm like, are we going the right way? I've never been here. I don't even know what I'm just following. I'm a great follower.
Right.
And so and they finally say, hey, we're up here. We're about 2 miles ahead of you. Keep going. All this time, he's priming me. Like his back is achy or he's not feeling it. And I'm just listening to him until I'm like, oh, man.
This is like your guide? Or
No, he's just a hiker. He's just a hiker. I met him at the gym, and he said he's like a mountain climber. And
Got
I'm like,
it.
So I was like, and he has
partnering with him on this.
Partnering. He's with the mountain climbing group.
Got it.
So I'm assuming like they've got climbs together. They've got the experience. I'm still new. I by far do not know everything. I'm just like wading into the waters. And I'm thinking I'm with a solid group. So we get to they call it the switchbacks, which is kind of it's like you're done climbing at that time. And then they have 99 switchbacks that go all the way to the top, not to the top of Mount Whitney, but to the top before you start going behind the back of the mountain. And I look up and you could see tiny little lights, tiny. They look like fireflies going up this. So there's switchbacks, and then there's this big mountain. It's called the chute is what it's called. And you look up, and they're so tiny, Kim. These lights are itty bitty. And I look up, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty high. And I sit down, and we're eating, and we're getting ready to go up the chute. Now, my guy is now full on. He's not going. And I'm just looking at him like, I took off work. I am here, like, to do it. Like, I am physically not hurt. I am, like, I'm in it to win it. Like, I want to at least try.
Yeah.
And he's going, and the two gentlemen we were with, they took off up. They started going up. I could see them going up. The other three, one had altitude sickness. The other one didn't sleep at all. He was done. And then the girlfriend of the other guy was done. 3 were out. Jeez. My guy was out. And I'm like, are you good? Are you going to be with these guys? And he was like, yeah, why? I'm following these guys. I'm going up this mountain. Yeah. I'm chasing these guys. And he was like, oh, you are? Yeah, I'm going. And because I took time off of work. And I wanted to see if I could do it. So I start going up this chute. And again, it looks so different when you're just looking. As the sun rises, it shows the vastness of the chute. Mm-hmm. And I look up, and at some point I'm crawling on my hands and knees to climb up.
Oh my gosh.
Because the sun is coming down, so the sun is starting to melt it. So I'm trying to get up as fast as I can, but at some point I'm crawling and I'm kind of zigzagging up, up, up. And they look back and they see me. They're like, okay, she's here. And I'm like, you're seeing that I'm with you. Don't leave me, because I still don't know where I'm going. So they wait for me at the top. I'm probably about 20 minutes behind them. They wait. I get to the top, and I'm like, we made it. We're there. And they're like, no, we're not. I'm like, excuse me? And they're like, oh, no, we have to go around the back of the mountain all the way to the back, and then you go up, which was, I want to say, I don't know how many more miles. I don't know. I think the hike total was 23 miles. Gosh. So I'm like, okay. And they start walking ahead, and I'm walking behind them. And again, really, I don't really know the depth of where I'm at. I'm just following. And so I follow, and if you look down, it's straight shoot down the backside of the mountain. So you have to stay very close to the edge towards the mountain, so you don't fall off. Yeah. So I follow these guys, follow them, and then we get to the very last part where you're at that point, you're suffering. You're so tired, and you're not really cold, but there's snow. You're just so tired, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is. I'm so close. I could do this. And I get to the top. We're up there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm holding my sign up. I did it. I'm exhilarated. I feel so great. And then we start coming down. They are out of water. I give them half of my water. Okay. Because I carry all my water on my persons. Yeah. I don't like drinking water out there. So very quickly, give them half my water. We start going down. Now I'm feeling better because we're going down. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel good. So we get back to the chute. They say, you need to take off your crampons and you need to go down, glissade down. I've never done this before. Mm-hmm. I go, what now? What do you want me to do? And they go, you have to sit on your butt and use your axe as a brake. I don't know how to do that. I'm going to walk down. You can't walk down. Oh, no, I'm going to do it. Well, they take off. Choom, choom, they take off. Oh my God. I'm assuming they're waiting at the bottom for me. So Lupe starts to walk down. As I'm walking down, my boot gets caught. My crampons get caught in maybe my pants or something, and I proceed to start tumbling down the chute. And I still don't realize the depth of what's happening. I mean, I understand I'm now flying down a mountain uncontrollably. And I have my ice axe in my hand, and I'm spinning and going so fast with no control. And at that, I realized it was a second of like, this, it's not a TV show. Like, no one's going to come down and save me, like pluck me off of this mountain. I have to save myself. Right. Like, holy shit. Like, excuse me, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? You've got your axe. Okay. And I have this big backpack on. So I'm like, okay, here we go. We're gonna go 1, 2, and I'm gonna roll over with all my body weight, get on my stomach. I dug my axe in, and I dug and I held on as tight as I can, and it probably took 30, 40 yards for me to stop. And I finally stopped with rocks and dirt, and I'm holding on for him, and I'm shaking, and I'm like, I'm sure I'm crying at this point.
Of course.
And I'm just laying, and I'm like, how am I gonna get off this mountain? I'm not even halfway down. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I'm just trying to process the situation. And then this gentleman comes down out of nowhere, like an angel.
Yeah.
On his butt. And he goes, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. And he was like, okay, so we need to get you on your butt, and you need to glissade down. No, I can't. I don't know how to do that. And I'm crying. He goes, sweetie, it's the only way you're going to get down alive. So we need to do this. Mm-hmm. His girlfriend comes down right next to him. Is she okay? And he goes, we're making it okay. We're going to fix this. So I'm so scared. He goes, you need to prop yourself up, sit down, dig your cleats, your crampons on. He goes, okay, let's take those off. Let's put them in your bag. And he goes, now you need to use your axe as a brake. And I'm like, I'm so scared. He goes, you can do this. And I'm like, okay. So he shows me, and I start going, but I'm going down very fast. So I just keep braking.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, you're good. And they just take off. So it takes me probably 45 minutes to get down. And I am just shaking the whole time.
Oh my God.
I get down to the bottom. There's nobody there.
Oh no.
I'm all by myself. And I don't know how to get back. And I have no water. And I have no food. And I have like no sunscreen, nothing. Because we were supposed to be done by now.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, they left me here. And I'm like, okay. So I start looking around for foot tracks.
Right.
A lot of it's melted now because it just, gets cold at night, melts during the day. So I find the tracks and I start just following tracks. I'm following tracks. And maybe 2 hours, I run into 2 guys. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to this base camp. Am I going the right way? And they're like, yeah, keep going down that way. You're going the right way. And I'm like, oh, thank gosh, I'm going the right way. So I keep going. And what is there? Another straight down chute. But there's a waterfall right here.
Oh, gosh, I totally forgot about this. Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got to do it again. And I'm like, oh no. And so I get up as high as I can to the top, and I'm on my butt. And if I go anywhere this way, I'm going down the waterfall. Mm-hmm. So probably took me an hour just to go maybe half a football field to get down to the bottom. And lo and behold is my base camp.
Okay.
And the 2 gentlemen are there. Oh, hey, you're back. And I'm like, screw you and screw you.
Oh.
You left me with no water. My lips are swollen because I'm so dehydrated. And my guy was there, and he goes, well, I was thinking about walking out today. And I looked at him, and at this point, it was 4:00 in the afternoon. I had started climbing at midnight. Mm-hmm. So I had climbed 18 hours, I believe, nonstop. And he had stopped, where I left him the night before. And I said, I don't really have anything to say to you right now. I need to go into my tent, and I'm going to sleep.
Yeah.
And when I wake up in the morning, we'll hike out.
Yeah.
I'm not going. And he just kind of looked at me. I think I was probably pretty scary looking. I went to sleep.
Because the plan is to stay the night and then leave, and he wanted to go then.
Yes.
Okay.
Because he didn't climb the mountain.
Right.
He
No,
stopped.
of course. Yeah.
So the next morning I get up. He's still there, but everybody's left. And he doesn't know how to get out. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Note to self, I'm never coming with this group again.
No.
So now we're going down the wrong way, and it's all these big rocks. And I said, I don't think that's the right way. Oh, no, it is. And I'm like, okay, but if I go down there, I've got I have so much stuff in my backpack. I've got to have at least 45 to 50 pounds on my back. Mm-hmm. I even had a chair. Mm-hmm. I bought a chair. Mm-hmm. I never used the chair, but I needed a chair.
Yeah.
And I said, if I go down there, I'm not going to be able to get out. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going that way. I'm going to follow my instincts, and I'm going this way. Come or not, I'm done following you.
Yeah.
So I found the right trail. We made it down where he had to stop and talk to everybody about the climb that he didn't do. And I'm just like, but I had to be nice because he was my driver. Yeah. But I'm like, I just need to get off this mountain. I'm done. And fast forward a week later, my husband says, didn't you just hike Mount Whitney? And I'm like, yeah, why? And he goes, because 2 women just tumbled down. One broke her back. The other one broke her hip, and they had to lifeline them off the mountain.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, are you? And I'm like, really? Oh, my goodness.
Can't imagine why.
No, and it took me probably 6 or 7 months before I told my husband.
Well, I remember when you told us, I said, did you tell Chris this? And you were like, no, he'll never support me. Like,
no,
to continue
no,
doing
because that's like worst case scenario. And because he's always afraid that,
of course,
that I'm
be too.
I'm going to die. And it took a long time for me to be like, this happened. And he was obviously was not happy. But I'm like, but you know what? I made it. And when I came back, I was like, what do I do now? And then he was like, you know what? I think you need to go to
a school.
That's
where Ecuador comes in. Yeah.
Go to school.
Tell me about Ecuador.
So Ecuador, my husband suggested I go to climbing school.
Right.
And so I started training. I signed up for a climbing expedition and to go to school. And it was supposed to be in, I want to say Seattle. And I was getting ready, training. And I broke my toe. Do you remember that? I broke my toe 3 weeks before my school.
Was it?
Yeah, I broke my toe.
You had to reschedule it.
Yes, yeah. I broke my toe, and they were like, they rescheduled me. They said the next one was in Ecuador, and I'm like, oh, you're kidding? That sounds so much better than Seattle.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, how are you going to train for it? I'm like, don't you worry, I'll figure it out. I still strength trained. I did step ups. I just didn't put any weight on my toe. I still did everything I could without using my big toe.
Right.
And shipped off to Ecuador, and I go to this. The town was just very old, whatever. And we get to this beautiful hotel. I meet Ozzy, who is an amazing, very accomplished mountain climber.
He's an instructor,
he's the best, one of the best trainers I think they have, and he's very proficient. He's climbed Mount Everest like 3 or 4 times, and he's very much, he knows everything. And so my partner, his mother-in-law passed away, so he had to fly away. So I got Ozzy all to myself. So that meant like anything goes. Like he was like, what do you want to do today? And it's like, want to go learn how to climb a glacier? Let's learn how to use your ice axe. And he was anything I want to do, he's like, yes. And he was just such a great teacher of just like, he had such patience with me, and he knew I was that can-do attitude. Like I will try anything and I want to do everything. And so we were doing climbs, acclimatizing and things up to our hike, which was a volcano, which is Cayambe. And that was like our big finale. Okay. And so we get up, it was like midnight, 1 a.m. And
so hold on, I want to go through it because this was actually another question I was going to ask you, so you can answer it here. So when you go on a hike, typically you get up at midnight, 1 a.m. You start early. So that means you go to sleep at
as soon as you can. If you can go to sleep at 6 or 7. Even the 14ers here locally, like Yosemite and things.
Yeah.
We, as a group, there's usually 3 or 4 of us. We go to bed at 6.
You take a 7. Sleeping aid.
Yeah. It's like a sleeping, because who goes to bed at I don't.
No, you can't fall asleep.
So I've taken a sleeping aid. I go to sleep.
And then get up at midnight or 1.
Midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so that's what you did here in Ecuador. Okay.
Yes, they do the very same thing. You get up at 1 because you do your best climbing in the dark.
Of course.
You drink less water. The ice, for being on glaciers, the ice is its hardest. So they always start climbing through the night. So we get up, wee hours in the morning. We get our stuff on, super excited. I'm so jazzed. We start hiking up, and you could see little trails of lights. People are going up ahead of you, and I'm super excited, and we're hiking, and it must be probably hour 4 or 5, and it's getting colder and I'm hard. I can't even take my gloves off because it's so cold. So my trainer is feeding me, and then we walk longer, and he has me on a leash, is what my husband calls it, and it's a climbing belt, and it's tied to him. So if I were to fall in any crevasses, he could save me. So we're climbing, and I'm getting more tired, and the oxygen's getting less, and I'm climbing and quieter, and I had an earbud in my ear, but it stopped working because it was so cold. So
Is that your motivational?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's my motivational. Everyone's like, "What's in your ear?" It is a man yelling at me.
It's yes.
What do you want to do with your life?
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
everybody needs a whisper in the
It's what
ear.
got me through my prep is you introduced me to that stuff.
Whispering in my ear. So I'm walking, and it's again probably hour 6 or 7, and I am just exhausted, and I'm just physically and mentally exhausted.
Wait, what is it about this one that was different from any of the other ones that you had done?
The altitude was higher.
Okay.
It was much higher, and it was more steep.
Okay.
Where Whitney is more, the chute was high, but it was only a certain amount. This was going straight up.
And you had climbed the day or two prior
We've
as
been
well?
training in small climbs.
So you were running low on reserves at that point and the altitude on top of it?
It could have been. We're always hiking and doing things. They give you rest days. But I want to say, like I said, just the coldness.
Yeah, the cold,
It was
too.
so cold.
It was below zero, you said.
And it was more steep than I'd ever gone. It was very, very steep where it's called a mountaineering step. So it's sidestepping.
Yeah.
Because it was steep. So you're walking sideways.
Oh my God.
Because it was steep in some points. And it was just hours of that. And just walking. And it's not a fast walk. It's just step, step, step. So I was just so tired and cold. I think the cold really got me just super low energy because I just was low body fat anyway for a girl. I mean, even I probably was 16, 17%, but I was just so cold. And so at one point, I would say it was my darkest hour, but I stopped and just stopped. And then he stopped because he felt his belt pull.
Yeah.
And I just put my head down. And he turned back and he looked at me like, what? And I just nodded my head in just complete defeat. And I just said, I can't go any further. I'm done, Ozzy. And I put my head down and like ashamed, like I was not living up to this expectation.
Yeah.
That, and I just said, I can't. And he just looked at me and he kind of gave me a look and with my head down and he had my leash and he yanked my leash as hard as he could. And I just kind of went forward with my hips and my head went back and I looked at him like, what the fuck? Like it was like a jarring. And I looked at him and he looked at me and he goes, if I have to drag you up this effing mountain, you're going to get to the top. Because again, he had spent so many days with me.
Right.
And he knew
what you're capable of.
And that I wouldn't give up on anything.
Right.
But now it was like, you're going to get up. And I looked at him and like we just met eyes and I'm like, well, he thinks I could do it. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I looked at him and I'm like, I reset and I'm like, okay.
You bought into his belief in you.
I looked at him, I'm like, okay. And I put my head down and I started walking again, one step at a time, one step at a time. But I was done. I would have turned around and went back.
You said, when you told me about this, you said it gave you a glimpse into what your clients experience. Like the gym, when we go, like that's their mountain. Yeah. It's like it was for the first time. Because you don't get defeated. I mean, you were like a superwoman and you believe you can do everything. And this was the first time you probably ever felt that way, I'm guessing. One of the first.
I think it was a really high highlight. Like it was really embedded in my brain that, oh my God, I have there's a wall here.
Yeah.
I hit a wall. And and again, when we talked this morning and I was like, I understood. I'm like, wow, this is what it feels like. How my clients feel. Yeah. And I've never felt that I could recollect like this before, where I just felt defeated and done and like just hopeless. Like I can't. Yeah. And it was the worst feeling. Like I was like, oh my gosh. But it just took that readjust and just like, no, you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And he knew I was going to do it. And I just like, okay, if he thinks I can do it, I am going to do it. And I was just like my quick reset. Really quick.
He literally snapped you by the snap of your leash, snapped you out of it.
And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm doing this because I can. But again, and I want to say, as I was going up, it's so funny because there's little voices in your head. Stop. Why are you doing this? Don't. There are things that want to keep us alive. What do they preserve? What is it called? Flight or fight?
Yeah.
Very much cues of just
your survival instincts.
Yes. Yeah. Why are you doing this? Turn around. Stop. Danger. Danger. You shouldn't be doing this. Oh, I have those voices. But I'm like, oh, go away. Go away. Go away. I can do this. I mean, I'm not listening to any, I'm going forward. And then I guess maybe one of those voices got so loud and I just said, I'm done.
I think that the weaker I know this just from dealing with my condition and knowing other people that have had issues. The weaker you get physically, and like the less strong you feel, I should say, the louder that becomes, and it can overtake you. And it is very difficult to overrule it when you feel so weak and so beaten down. So it's like you had weakened, and that's why the voices felt louder. And it's God, I could talk forever on that subject, but
it was really eye-opening because I never thought that I had that.
You had a wall.
Yeah, that I would ever. It's like, I'm going to do it. If I say it, I'm going to do it. I don't care how long it takes. I will do it. And he got me to the top. And I've never been, I mean, it was not pretty. There was like 10 or 15 men there at the top already. And they had seen me at the base camp and they were like, yay, they're all cheering me on. I had frozen snot coming down my face. I mean, I was just a hot mess. And I'm just walking by them. They didn't even, I could just hear them. And I just dropped to my knees and just laid out on like spread eagle. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to the top of my mountain. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, I made it. And just inside, I was so happy. I mean, I just had to rest for a minute. And then he started feeding me. And I maybe had 5 minutes of rest time. And he's like, okay, pictures. We got to go. And, but just like, I got there, it was like, I did it, and it was that was probably the hardest climb. And then I understood if I wanted to keep climbing, this is what I was going to be cold. These were the uncomfortable conditions, and that I wouldn't have Ozzy with me all the time, and that I needed to, keep going without having Ozzy. Like I had to do it myself. Although I had other coaches when I went to Russia, I had another coach, but it was different. It wasn't Ozzy. So Ozzy was just really, he was there in my dark.
Yeah, he's dark. You guys are still in touch.
Yeah. I want to go next year to Aconcagua, Argentina.
Oh, that's right. Argentina.
Yeah, we have a date. So I'm hoping next year, it's going to happen next year that I can meet up with him and climb.
He sounds very special. We should send him this podcast so you can hear it. Where does he live? Live?
He's Ecuador.
Oh, he does. He lives in Ecuador.
Yeah, he's in Ecuador.
Okay. Wow. Well, there are so many more stories where that came from. Maybe I can twist her arm and have her back on another time to go over them. But when I'm trying to figure out, because I know we're running out of time. Let me just ask you this. What would happen to your, because I was going to ask you, like, what goes through your head for all those hours when you're hiking a mountain, and have you ever thought, to yourself, obviously you did at that point, like, why the F am I doing this? Because that's what I would be asking, what a lot of people will be asking, like, I am miserable. It's like, you seek out this pain, you seek out this displeasure, you seek out this discomfort, like, and then you're out there, and it's, when you relay back to me, when you come back to the work and we're all there and you're telling us a story, I'm thinking, F that. Like, what insane person would choose to do this when you're actually on the hike, not Ecuador, but on these other ones? Are you miserable the whole time? Are you actually enjoying the process of it?
I read your questions last night.
I know.
And I looked at that, and I was in my truck on my way home, and I really sat in my parking lot, and I'm like, why do you do what you do? I mean, I really questioned myself, like, wow. I mean, it's not like I'm hiking for my dad, or I'm hiking for, I'm like, why do I seek out or join in with people that are just as crazy as I am? I know. Get me wrong, I have a group of them. But I'm like, why do I do it? And, it's the hard. I think it's the challenge. And I want to say, I want to see if I could do it. I know I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
But it's just the hard and nothing else. I'm not thinking about anything else. I could have issues at home, like, I don't know, things going on in my life. I've got kids. I've got a husband.
You got a business.
I've got a business. And it's like, all those things just melt away, and it gives me clarity. I could think about things that, it's so hard. It's just things that maybe have been on my mind, and like I could just kind of dwell them over a little bit. But if it's just me and like the outdoors, and I'm with a group, but it's just the solitude. It's just just one more step, and then when you get to the top, and you look around, and you're like, wow, and you look back at how far you've come, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, and I think I'm so afraid someday maybe I won't be able to do it. Like, maybe it's such a gift.
I don't know, though.
It's such a gift.
Yeah, it is. So truly.
I'm like, and I'm so lucky to be able to do this and use my body and use my strengths. And I don't want to be graded in competition. Like, I want to use all my things and do it. And so maybe it's just that I just want to use my body.
I think a lot of people do it for, a lot of people are I mean, let's just put it this way. If I was doing that shit, I would be like showing everybody. I would be like, look what I did. Even though with the fitness competition, I didn't tell anybody till after it was over. Yeah. So I wasn't that way, but you really, it's like you against you. And, you know, I was just thinking as you were just talking, I spent so many years in like what I call stillness, when I really got clear on my thoughts and got clear on who I was and my self-aware, everything just sort of, I got more clear on things. And I think that's your version of stillness. You have to be moving. I feel like for you, movement actually equals stillness in the mind. Like your mind quiets when you move, it seems.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I just love it. It's such a hard thing to describe. And and I guess as I get older, you know, I appreciate things more. Mm-hmm. You know, I get older and it's like, you know, and when you tell me, oh, why are you doing that? Or why do you do that? Or how do you do that? Or you can't do that. And I'm like, oh, you watch me. Yeah. You know, it's just like, oh, don't put limitations on me, because then I'll make sure I'll do that and then some. But it's just kind of edging myself on. And and again, I have a group of women that I go with that just, hey, I want to do it because it's hard. Yeah. Let's just do it. And it's very challenging mentally and physically. And it's a rush. You know, it's like I'm doing it and it's just the coolest thing to be able to do and to be good at it. But people look at you and they're like, oh, you do that? And I'm like, yeah, it's a nice walk. You know, it's a nice walk. And you meet amazing people along the way, you know, when you share that same, because again, our group is very small. Yeah. And it's hard. And I thrive in a challenge. I think the challenge is,
you've conditioned yourself that way. Like when we talked this morning, because we had our workout right before we came here, and we were just talking about some stuff. And you said, I don't remember how it was prefaced, but it was something about how when like it doesn't occur to you I was saying how when you're going through something like either discomfort of the mind or discomfort of the body, or like pain or whatever it is, mental illness, physical, whatever it is, this is the term I've been using lately. It's so seductive, and it lures you into sort of bathing in I don't know if it's the woe is me or the self-pity. I have been there. Most people have been there. I'm not ashamed to say. Like, it's just so seductive because pulling yourself out of it is hard. And it takes a lot of energy. And for you, I feel like when discomfort, because you just told me recently, you said to me, we were talking about somebody and you said, this person's like, this hurts, that hurts. And you said, and this is the first time I've ever heard you say this since I met you 7-8 years ago, whatever. And you said, I hurt every day. I have pain every single day. And I look at our square in the face. I go, you do? Because you never talk about it. And you're like, yeah. And I go, what hurts right now? And you're like, my shoulder hurts and this and that. So, I wonder, like in the morning when you wake up and the alarm goes off at 4:30, whatever it is, you have your first client, or at 5:30, whatever it is. Do you ever think to yourself, especially on the weekends, like when you don't have to go to work, do you ever think to yourself, I just want to lay in bed. I just want to.
I think I'm going to go for a run and then I'll lay on my love sack later.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm going to go do this stuff and then I'll rest later. Usually I'll rest later.
Yeah.
And I always like keep that out there, like I'll rest. But feeling my body and always being sore and things, it's just a part of life.
Part of your life.
It's a part of life. And if I stopped, I think we talked, if I stopped every time somebody told me, don't do that, I would be in a fetal position. Like I would die. I mean, and it just goes against, it's like petting a cat backwards. It goes against every fiber in my being to stop.
Right.
And it's just, I think my husband, like I said, he sees me on my down, like at night when I come home and I've been on my feet 12 hours and my shoulder hurts, my glutes hurt, my knees, something hurts on me all the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, what can I do for you? How can I make it better? Lay on your love sack. He's so good, but he sees me at my lowest, where it's usually at night, like I said, when I'm at rest.
Yeah.
And I'm laying there and I'm rolling a ball or something on the couch. But then I get up the next day and I'm still sore. But you know what? Nobody needs to hear me talk about me being sore or hurting. I want to help. You know, it's like, what's going on with you today? What's happening? Yeah. And I just kind of put that on the backside. I'll deal with that later. You know, when I go work out, I'll roll a ball. I'll do what I need to do for self-care. But I can't live in that because it just goes.
It's not seductive for you. It doesn't. It's not. It doesn't really take over the same way it does for a lot of us.
No, I just can't.
It's an active effort for me to keep it at bay, because I feel like for so many years, woke up to like an uphill battle every single day, and still some days. And it's an active effort and for you, it just seems like it's not even an option.
Yeah, no.
It's not, it's just, it's admirable. And it's one of the most fascinating things. Okay. So we're going to go through this really quickly because we've clearly gone over,
Yes.
but, what I want to just go through this really quick. I want to leave the listeners with a couple little nuggets of advice, for anybody that's, looking to lose weight. One of the biggest ones is that you can't out-train a bad diet. We've kind of talked about this. You train very hard and you have tried to out-train a bad diet. It doesn't work. No. So that's first. Second, the value of consistency when it comes to exercise and diet. I've learned all this stuff from her, by the way. To be disciplined Monday through Thursday and then go off the rails on the weekends. I know we hear about it all the time. The clients, and these are people that say they want to lose weight, they have a goal. The clients who struggle to stay consistent over the weekends, what do you notice in terms of them getting results? They can't really, they undo the progress they make during the week, typically on the weekends. Is that kind of how it goes?
They do, and then they want to go back to punishing themselves. Well, I can't eat today because I was bad this weekend. And I'm like, well, that's not how it works, So it just goes back to consistency. And I tell people, if you're going to have a meal on the back end of the day, maybe go out to dinner, eat lighter during the day.
Yeah.
Be aware. You don't have to be on point exactly, but you got to be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
If you know you're going to have a drink, I don't care if you drink. I don't care what your thing is, but just understand that you have to give and take. It's like you can't have it all and then, have your cake and then come to me saying, I didn't lose weight because, of this. Again, accountability. How bad do you want something? And it's not forever. I think that's the other thing. It's not forever.
It's not forever. And I remember you told me, you can have it all, just not all at once.
Yeah.
You can have this, this food, that food, this food, that, but you just can't have it all in the same day. Space it out, whatever. And also, in terms of setting up expectations realistically, everybody asks, how long will it take me to lose the weight? For those who want long-term weight loss success, a lot of people do look for the shortcut, which is why the fad diets, exist, and they're such a big thing. We see them all the time at the people coming to the gym. But at the end of the day, if someone wants long-term fat loss, you always told me after that first initial drop when you start, which can be 5 to 8 pounds, water weight, basically glycogen. You've always said a pound a week, give or take, is what someone should expect for long-term success. That was my experience. And sometimes, give or take, and it's been the experience of the clients I know at the gym who kept the weight off. And I feel like the more overweight you are, sometimes you can be more than that. But that's, you see all different fad diets come in and out of that gym.
Oh, they do. And
people resist
they do. And
pound a week.
And I'm like, hey, you. You let me know if you want to talk about food. But if you've got your food under control,
yeah, people have the pound a week thing. People really resist, even though they're losing fat. It's fat loss every week, and it's consistent. And the more I feel like I'm no professional, by the way. I'm not. I've just learned this, but I feel like the easier something is, usually the easier the weight comes back. Yeah. So it's like the more. I don't know. This feels very strategic, and it felt every time I lost a pound, it was a permanent pound off. It didn't feel like it was easily going to come back on. So, yeah. Okay. You talk about the importance of food a lot more than even exercise when it comes to weight loss. That's something that with the weight loss clients, you really stress. People always think let me just do some cardio. And you're like, well, how's your food? We don't expect a personal trainer, to always talk about that. But what is the advice you're giving to new clients who are coming in? Are they on MyFitnessPal and doing macros, most of the new ones?
Most really don't know. They've heard of MyFitnessPal. Mm-hmm. They don't really understand it, or they track for a couple days and it's too much work.
It is a lot of work.
It's too much work.
That's where the commitment comes in. You really have to be disciplined.
Yeah, and I just tell people, you need to understand what you're eating. You don't understand what you're eating. I get you say you're eating under, 1,600 calories, but clearly you're not, or you wouldn't be overweight.
Right.
Or not at a goal. And I'm like, you really have to look back. Coffee creamers, sauces, dressings. I said, it's really going back to peeling apart what you're eating. And if we could just see what you're eating and you understanding, if you're with me for a month or 5 years, I want you to have the education of the food, because it was such an ingraining thing with Holly. Mm-hmm. You have to understand the food. Yeah. You can't keep stupid eating and expect to get results.
Right.
And again, the up down is a ridiculous way
to
live.
Insanity. Who wants to live like that?
Who wants to diet at 80 and 90? I'm like, I know. So when people come and I'm like, look, Let's get your numbers. Let's get you understanding. Everything goes in the tracker. I don't use my Fitness Pal anymore because it just seemed it was too much advertising and
It's a lot, yeah.
a lot. So I found another free tracker. It's just a macro tracker. It's free and it's super easy to use. And I put people on it. I'm like, these are your numbers. And they're like, well, I do better at 1,200. And I'm like, you're going to be starving at 1,200.
Yeah.
And then you're going to cheat. Yeah. Let's start you in the mid 15s. And they're like, well, I don't eat that much. Honey, you do.
People don't realize how many calories they're taking in because every little thing, you don't realize it. Trust me, you do not realize it. Every little thing counts. And sometimes it's the things that you don't think are going to be that big of a deal, like coffee cream. Yeah. You don't realize that you're eating, you could be drinking a couple hundred calories, just coffee cream, easily depending on what kind you're drinking. So, or like if this is just regular Americano, but black coffee. But if you, get one of these foo-foo drinks. I mean, this is like a meal sometimes.
Yeah, we found that out with one of my people. They were like, she was drinking every day, and I'm just like, that's 2 meals.
They're not, and they don't track it because they don't think it's because it's liquid. So people do think they're eating a lot less than they are, or I should say, they're taking in less calories than they are. Yeah. So you do not believe in dieting. By the way, I should just go back and say, as far as macros go, I always say go to I don't know if it still exists, but ifitfitsyourmacros.com. There's actually a website dedicated to creating a macro split if you want to know what your protein, carbs, and fat should be at. That's what I used to use. Okay, so you don't believe in dieting someone too low because when you diet them too low, what happens?
Oh, goodness. Hormone change, bone density. I mean, it's just not healthy.
And then if they hit a plateau, you have to diet them even lower.
You have to take them down. So so when people come to me at 1,200 calories and they're like, oh no, I do my best. And I'm just like, but you're already starving. Yeah. You should be having more food than that. It's just not enough. But it's just what they're eating. They're eating way too much fat or way too many carbs. I'm like, we just have to,
change the ratio.
We have to change the ratio. So I'm like, trust me, and just try it. It's always, let's just try it. Yeah. Let's just try it. Give me 10 days. Let's see if you start dropping with my numbers. And if you don't, we'll adjust. They almost always do. And it's just like, those BLTs will get you. The bites, licks, and the taste. And it's just like you have to just watch those grazes, the candy dish, those little things. Because you don't count them doesn't mean they are not on the back of your butt.
Oh my gosh, totally.
It just, they're there. Yeah. So dieting down so low, I mean, you want to keep your muscle. I mean, we're going to start, our body will start eating muscle and leave the fat on. You have to eat to lose body fat. Yeah. And I think that's so many misconceptions of cardio, all this crazy cardio and super low calories, you're just going to bounce right back into overeating. It's just not healthy. Your immune system's down. I mean, I want fit. If I could see your bones, I'm sorry,
not good.
That's not okay. No. I need fit, strong, all day long. Yeah. I want longevity because they may be in their 30s and 40s, but I'm like, you're going to be 50 and 60 and then 70.
You're setting the foundation now.
Absolutely. And strength is so important for women that they just, I don't want to, bulk up.
I know, I was going to say that next. First of all, a lot of women undereat on protein too. So I feel like none of us, and I'm probably one of them right now. I'm really guilty as charged. But for a long time, I probably ate too much protein for a long time. But that's another concern. I mean, if you're already just replacing a lot of your like carbs and fat with protein, a large portion of that macro split with protein, that because it's very, very, very difficult to gain weight on just protein. Yes. Try eating egg whites and chicken and see if you gain weight. You're not going to. No. Okay, and then to your point, going back to what you said, people are always convinced that if they just do weights, or not just do weights, but if they do weights, that they're going to end up bulking up and looking manly. And if they only knew. Yes. So here is, because I've thought about this, here is what I think about the reason why women say that. They may have lifted a little while and lifted really heavy and seen some bulk up, but it makes me wonder if they weren't at the same time working on a cut in terms of their diet. So if you're still eating and gaining weight and lifting, maybe you could look a little bit swole, like a little too, but if you're actively dieting and lifting, it's impossible.
Yes, it is impossible.
Yeah.
It is. And most people, again, I get really big really fast. I get that a lot. And I'm like, well, when you start weight training and doing cardio, you get hungrier. Yeah. And then you're like, well, I am working out, so I get more food, and you eat more. So you're really putting on, glycogen, and you're putting on more fat. Because it is very, very difficult to put on muscle. And it's really an active effort of of weights and feeding you for that. Like we actually give you.
You've measured this.
Excess,
You
yes.
actually done body fat, body muscle, the measurement, and
Absolutely.
seen how hard it is just to gain 1 pound of muscle.
Absolutely.
It's an
and
active
it is
effort.
so hard. So when women come in, I'm like, trust me, you're not going to gain weight. You're going to get smaller. We want fit, strong. I want fit, strong. I want you to do pull-ups. I want you to do, push-ups. You need to be strong.
Yeah.
You will get smaller, and you get bigger. It's because you're eating.
Yeah.
And they just kind of look at me, and I'm like, sorry, it's your food.
Yeah.
Address your food, and everything else falls into place. But it's the food all day long. It is.
The weights give you that tight sculpted
Absolutely.
look, which cardio just cannot give you.
No, composition. It just gives you umph. Otherwise, you're skinny fat. And it's like if you don't want your, bingo wings to swing, you gotta tighten them up. You gotta use them.
Yeah.
And again, it's just bone density. It just helps with so many other other things on our frame.
Yeah. I always say don't be intimidated by the weight room. Don't be intimidated by the weights because, someone has to do it for other women to feel comfortable going in there. Okay, so we've gone over time, so we're going to wrap up. As we conclude, I truly want to thank you for joining us because I know you didn't want to be here. This has been such a fun episode for me. I know it takes her a lot to do something like this, so I really appreciate you coming on. I have had, you guys, so many people ask me to have her as a guest. Who know about her, who know her. So I know your clients are excited too, because those who've heard. So I know listeners are going to love this episode. So thanks you guys for listening. And I may have her back on. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if there's something else we can come up with because I know that she's got more stories. So anyways, thanks guys for listening and I'll see you back here next week. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this conversation, please give it a like and leave me a comment. I want to know what you guys think. Also, if you're looking for more information about how to be a guest on the show, please go to our website at humanityunlockedpodcast.com. We only record shows in person, and we are located in Sacramento, California. Oh, and if you're not subscribed, make sure you tap that button so you can get updated on weekly episodes as they go live. Is that it? I think that's it. See you guys next time.